very good evening, everybody, from the flight deck once again. Welcome to another episode of A Pilot's Life live on Twitch with me, Captain Nabs. And good evening, HeadShootMan15. Good evening, Hayden UK. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it. And I have to say that I like this screenshot even more than when I first set it up about 15 minutes ago. The sun has shifted ever so slightly, so we're catching a little bit of that glare right over the tail. And not only that, but we've got some kind of ominous-looking clouds moving in over the horizon, which is a little bit of a sneak preview of what we're going to do today. So as you can see, we are still flying for JetBlue. We're still flying the Airbus A320 for JetBlue. And today is very special because it is the Season 12 season finale. So we have been at this now for 12 full seasons. So this is, I don't even know how many flights it's been. One day I should go and count it, but it's been around 120 flights anyways. It's been about 10 flights per season. So we're up to about 120 flights flown live on the Twitch stream here. And yeah, what are we going to do today? If I put myself on the screen, I can also show you what we're going to do today, everybody. So this is what we've got on tap today. If you look at the top of the screen, we're going from Fort Lauderdale to New Orleans today. So it's not really showing here because I got the auto follow, so it doesn't zoom out automatically. But there we are. That's what we're doing today. Fort Lauderdale over to New Orleans. Not a big long flight. It's about an hour and a half in the air, about 2 hours and I think 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 10 minutes gate to gate is what we're given. Scheduled departure time is 45 after, so in 41 minutes we're supposed to be out of here. So we're going to try and get this out on time, in on time, as best we can. That being said, we've got some interest today. We have got some weather going on. So I can't really show you on this, but I can show you over here with the Navigraph chart. So this is our flight plan today from Fort Lauderdale all the way up to New Orleans, KMSY. And if I throw the weather down, you'll see that we may have our work cut out for us today. So there is the current live weather radar picture. And you can see there's quite a bit of activity here in Florida. There's quite a bit of activity here along the Gulf Coast, kind of just the east of New Orleans. New Orleans might just be okay, but definitely the east, there's some stuff building up there. There's definitely a bit of stuff here as we depart Fort Lauderdale. So this could be an interesting day of storm dodging. Definitely could make for some interest. And you can see it must just be a hot day because just look at all the individual cells all across the southeast U.S. here, just growing up and spreading every which way. So this could definitely be an interesting day. And I do have a couple of other interesting tidbits to throw our way as well. So that's our weather that we're dealing with. We are going to have to deal with that for the departure phase, for the initial climb out as we head over the state of Florida. This one here, especially kind of building towards our SID there. This kind of actually dissipated nicely, but we've also got some other ones here near Tampa that may be moving across our flight path here. So that could be interesting. And again, some other ones up here. So the other half of our flight today that is kind of interesting, if I can find the right browser tab to bring over here, is our flight plan. So we are at JetBlue 1423 today, and I should be logged into VATSIM already. Yes, we are. 1423 going from Fort Lauderdale, New Orleans. We have quite a bit of fuel here. So we got dispatch remarks, ATC fuel for departure delays and weather. So we got, let's see here, 30 minutes of weather fuel, and we were supposed to have 30 minutes of ATC fuel, and I flutzed it up again, like I always do, and I forgot to change it from minutes, from kilograms to minutes. So let me do that real quick here. Just going to go back into my sim brief and just re-edit the flight because all I did was I just made one simple mistake here. And this is in minutes. This is in kilograms. This should be in minutes. I wanted 30 minutes of ATC fuel as well. So let's just regenerate that. The other thing you'll notice on here, while that's quickly regenerating, and there it is that we have an MEL today, and this is an interesting one. I saw this the other day, and this is quite interesting. MEL 28070401 alpha, fuel quantity, right-hand outer tank showing 20 kilograms intermittently. So this was one I actually saw. This is the interesting thing about the MEL2 in the Airbus, and it's not something that Fenix does a particularly good job of simulating, and I don't think anybody really does a great job of simulating indication failures per se, if it's not like an entire subsystem, but just individual sensors. This airplane is full of sensors. There's sensors everywhere calculating everything about this airplane, and stuff fails in it from time to time. It's not terribly frequent that that stuff fails, but it happens from time to time. So 2 years and $1 later. Thank you, Uncle Wiki. Yeah, so probably the most common MEL you're going to see outside of maybe in-flight entertainment systems not working, it's often related to just an individual sensor's not working, an individual sensor's not showing a display. So this was one we had, and we actually had this. It was intermittently showing the correct value in the outer fuel tank, and then it would switch to showing 20 kilograms, and then it would switch back to showing the correct value, about 710 kilograms, I think was in the tank, was to the best of our knowledge. But it would just sort of randomly throughout the flight switch back and forth. So this was the MEL we had. So they basically MEL'd that fuel quantity indication on the status display. So let me pull up the MEL here, and let's just have a look at it together here. So first of all, I'm just going to shoot to the MEL section here, chapter 28 for fuel, and I may not have the exact correct MEL because it's changed. The fuel system has changed a little bit over the years. So let's see here, 280704. 01 alpha. So 280704. We'll get there eventually. 0401 alpha. There we go. Nope, that's not the right one. 28070401 alpha. Nope. I obviously copied it down incorrectly. What was the... See, and I feel like it was this one back here. Fuel temperature indication, fuel tank, fuel quantity indication. Yeah, it was supposed to be this one. I think I swapped the numbers there. I think it was supposed to be 0104, not 0401. Check. So which one was it? It was wing tank, center tank, inner tank, outer tank. That's the one. It's actually, okay, so this is the one we actually had here. Outer tank fuel quantity indication on the fuel SD page. Yeah, so 28070103 alpha. So let me edit my flight plan for that as well, because that's the one. And if you ever had this discrepancy pop up, you would actually call maintenance and say, hey, look, this MEL you've got does not match the description. The number is not correct. It needs to be the correct number before we can depart. So can someone please come in and fix it? We'll actually, you'll have to get a mechanic to come in and change it in the book and make sure everything's signed off with the correct number. And the other day we had someone had the wrong number in there, and it was just like, all it was like, again, just the numbers, the digits transposed, but it changes it. It changes the meaning of it, so it has to be correct. So check the fuel quantity in the associated fuel tank after refueling. So repair interval C, 10 days. That's repair interval C. Number installed 2, number required 1. So we have 2 outer fuel tanks. We have 1 indication on each side, so we have to have at least one of them working. One may be an operative provided that the fuel quantity in the associated tank is checked after each refueling by the manual magnetic indicators or by the corresponding fuel quantity indicator on the refuel defuel control panel, and the associated fuel used indication is operative, and the associated inner tank indication is operative. So let's do this. Let's just hop in the flight deck here, and I hope it's not too loud. Let me just check the volume over here, but please let me know how the balance is. It doesn't seem very loud at all. It's just loud in my headset, so I'm going to turn that down a little wee bit. But I'm just going to go straight to the fuel page just to show you what we're talking about here. So if I can bring up the fuel page here. So you've got your inner and your outer tanks in the wings, inner tanks, outer tanks. Right now we've got very little fuel in each. So the outer tank indication was in this case showing fluctuating between 710 and 20 kilograms. 710 was correct and 20 was erroneous as best we could figure. In order for this to be applicable, though, you have to have the fuel used counter has to be working, and the inner tank on the same side has to be working. So that's what so everything else seemed to work correctly. That was the only thing. So we got that. So we've got those indications, so we can apply this MEL, and then there's an ops procedure to go with it as well. So if we skip down, they have the ops procedure separated out here. 2807 0103 alpha. Outer tank fuel quantity indication on the fuel SD page. So after refueling, the fuel on board may be calculated either using the indications on the refuel control panel if available, or by using the manual magnetic indicators. And then we have a little after start procedure. We have to check that /FF is selected on the MCDU fuel prediction page, and if it's not, we have to manually insert the fuel on board that we determined before departure. Okay, so what does all that mean? Well, that really kind of made for very interesting, and honestly, it's an early morning flight, made for a bit of a headache, but what does that mean? So you have 2 ways of determining the quantity. So since the quantity is not appearing on the fuel gauge up there in the flight deck, there's 2 ways of determining the fuel quantity. So one is to come to the refueling panel which is right here. I can't actually open it. I don't believe it does actually physically open. No, but in here is the fuel control panel for the fueler, and on that panel there is also a readout of what is in each tank. The inners, outer, center, all those tanks are listed on here. So you can go here, and maybe it's just the transmission to the screen in the flight deck that's broken, but the sensor is working properly and is still indicating correctly here. And as long as that's correct here, and we verify this before we depart, that we can say, okay, we started with X amount of fuel. We know it from here. If this is not working, if it's a sensor issue potentially, which it could be, then you have to go to the magnetic level indicators. And let's see if I can find them here on the wing. I believe it might be that right there. No, it's this right here. It's the R5 right here. That's the magnetic level indicator. So what it is a little magnetic dipstick inside the tank. So you come up from underneath, you unscrew it, it falls, and there's magnets floating inside the tank that catch the top of that dipstick and stop it from falling when it reaches the level of the fuel in the tank. So how far it sticks out is how much fuel shows you how much fuel is left in the tank. Then you read the value off there. Then you have to go to this table inside the airplane, and it's actually incredibly complicated because if the airplane's not level, that's going to affect, of course, the level of the fuel in the wings. If it's tilted slightly, the ramp's not even, it's going to affect it. So there's actually an additional process step you have to do before you even do that. The mechanic has to come underneath the center of the airplane, and right underneath the center of the airplane, somewhere here, if I can find it there, is a level indicator. So there's a little bubble, there's a little dome, basically a level in there, and it's got a little grid behind it. And you have to read off what the grid says to figure out how level the airplane is. Is it left wing low, right wing low, tail low, nose low, whatever, it's on level, and then you actually go to these charts and say, okay, based on the amount showing in there and the level of the airplane, this is how much fuel is actually in the tank. So it's not a huge process, but it does take some time, and our company had a policy, and I'm sure a lot of other companies do, where it has to be, because this is such an important calculation, and because this is kind of not subjective, but it's a complicated calculation that's not normally done, there have to be two independent people that go and verify it. So it's generally a mechanic has to come and take all the measurements and calculate it, and then they also have to give all the measurements to the pilot, to the flight crew, and they also have to calculate it separately, and they have to both make sure they agree with the answer of how much fuel's in the tank. And if they don't, they have to figure out, okay, who went wrong, where did we go wrong? So there need to be two separate people making the calculation, independently trying to come up with the correct answer, make sure that we have the fuel in the tank that we need. So yeah, I can't simulate that in the Fenix, unfortunately. So in the Fenix, there's no way to fail the fuel gauges per se. I can fail the fuel quantity computers and things like that, but I can't actually fail just an individual gauge indication. So we'll just pretend that sometimes fluctuates and we don't trust it. We're going to have to go with the alternate procedures here. Anywho, it's a bit of a complicated MEL. It's really kind of interesting to deal with. I'd never done it before. I've read about it, but I'd never actually done it before. We actually did the paperwork for it. We actually did the magnetic dipstick today and did the calculations and everything. And we came up, and the outer tank was full anyways, was basically what happened. The dipstick fell just a tiny little bit. The guy said, yep, it's full. It didn't fall. It fell only just basically to the full level. So the tank is full, which was easy. And it can be a lot more complicated than that. But yeah, anyways, it made for a very interesting process. So there is a little after-start procedure we have to remember to cover in the after-start process. But in the meantime, let's get this show on the road. So let's go in here and let's do this. Let's import the flight into Fenix. Thank you, Fenix. And let's hope the GSX work today. It's been giving me a little bit of issues lately. The last couple flights seem to be okay, but it's been intermittently having issues lately. Hayden UK, yeah, I did. Hey, good. I did say hey to everybody. Hey, Hayden UK, hi, HeadShootMan15, and Uncle Wiki. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and anybody else who's watching. All right, let's also get my FO, whose name is Dan, I believe, today. Let's get him started. Let's start setting up.
Roger.
Dan is all business. Okay, just got to make sure that mutes again before I do anything else. Okay, so he's going to do all sorts of stuff. He's going to start the APU in about 10 seconds, which we really don't need. So let's just go around the flight deck and let's just make sure a few other things are done. He's got those on. I'm going to turn on the IRSs so they start aligning. Nav light should be on. Parking brake is on. Let's just check the levels here. So engine oil is great. Hydraulics are good. And crew oxygen is good. All right. You got your glasses on, Dan. That's what really matters. As long as you got the glasses on, that's what matters. Okay. he's going to do that, and then he's going to start this, and I'm going to intercept him and stop him from starting the APU in 10 seconds or less. Nope, don't do that. Haha. I stopped you. Press the start button all you want now. It ain't going to do anything because I turned the master off. Okay.
I'm out for the walk around.
Okay, thank you, Dan. All right, in the meantime, let's start getting our flight ready here. So let's do the IRS alignment here. So actually, why do I do this? See, I crank my head around, or I could just do it the easy way. And I'm becoming more familiar and beginning to favor, especially for the stream, the various camera views here. I still wish we had Chaseplane. Chaseplane was such a fantastic interface, better than what Microsoft has done. Microsoft's not bad. Asobo's not bad. But Chaseplane was just, it was absolutely brilliant in terms of camera design, manipulation, flexibility. You could add an infinite number of cameras, cycle through as many as you want. It was great. Okay, what am I doing here? First of all, aircraft status. We do have a performance factor of +1. This would normally be always in the airplane, so I usually just put it in right now just to make sure. All right, and we should cycle the database. The database is current for a few more days. Let's go ahead and go initialization. So today we are, again, KFLL to KMSY, New Orleans. And if any of you guys want to join me, we're flying it live on VATSIM as always, so please feel free to join me. JetBlue 1423. If not, no worries, but it would be great to see a couple people join us today at least. And there's our IRS initialization point. Let's go to the flight plan and just check this against our flight plan here. So, flight log. North 2604.3, north, yep. By west 8009.0, 8009.0. That is all correct, so I can go ahead and click on Align on Ref, and that is doing its job. And that's about all we could do right there. What I can also do right now, and I do it this way just because it's kind of easy, is we could do Fort Lauderdale, and let's see here. We got Fort Lauderdale traffic. We got people, I think we're on Unicom, so yeah, we're on Unicom. People are still making transmissions on Unicom. They're calling 10 left, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the FAA ATIS system here, datis.cloud.io, KFLL, and departing runways 10 left and 10 right, parallel ops are being conducted. So I'm going to plan 10 left for departure. Just because there's definitely a lot of convective activity around here, we'll do wet numbers. We'll sync the load sheet initially, but then what I always do is go up by 500. So 66.6 becomes 67.1. Let's see, optimal flap, optimal config, force token no, anti-ice off, packs. We'll try to do the packs on takeoff, and sync live weather, calculate. I don't know if we have intersections here. Do we have intersections here? Not that chart. That chart. Do we have intersections here in Fort Lauderdale that we might depart from? I'm going to assume we're probably going to do the full length anyways. Yeah, we do have a Bravo 2 intersection. That's what, probably about 500 feet down there. I could even do like a... Bravo. And let's... 13,000. How long is this runway actually? It's not 13.5, is it? It's 9,000, so let's take off 500 from that. So let's call it 8,500, I think is the approximate. Can I type it in? Oh, I can just type it in. Oh, that's better. I like it. All right. So let's use that. All right, so now it's using intersection. How do I get it to use this intersection? Bravo. Ah, there it is. Okay, now it's set. Calculate. It's done. It's calculated. 10 left. Okay, good. We got takeoff numbers. While we're waiting for the IRS to align and just do a couple things, we can just level this thing out. Get the altimeter setting. Thank you. Altimeter. Where did my ATIS go here? All right, so 0305, got a very light winds now, 10 miles, field 2100, broken 45, broken 11,000, 28 degrees, pretty warm, 3005. Tower frequency is 19.3. Oh, thanks, that makes it a CTAF frequency as well, I think. TFR is in effect for the South Florida area. Contact us for info. 10 left Pappy's out of service. Hazardous weather. Convective segment number 6 Echo for thunderstorms within southern Florida. Available on FSS. Cranes vicinity of the airport. Shoreline traffic. Numerous birds vicinity of the airport. We've got lots of stuff going on here today. All right, so 3005 on the meter is the important thing here. And that reminds me, of course, to get 19.3 up as well. So one little trick I've developed here now. 1018 is what this has to be set to. One day, hopefully, we'll get American unit standby altimeters. All right, so 19.3 is the tower frequency, which sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure I remember that from last time. Come on. 19.2, 19.3. There we go. All right, and IRS is 2 more minutes to alignment here. Let me just do that here to CTAF. CTAF command really quickly. KFLL, just to confirm it is 19.3. It is 19.3. Yeah, good. Good. All right. Yeah, now we just sit for a moment here. Let's just set up a few other things. This should be working. My mini FCU is working. Good. While we're just waiting for that IRS to finish aligning. Once that's aligned, and actually, let me just double check this as well. Do we have a connection between Pilot's Life and the sim? We do. Okay, so I did start FSU IPC because it doesn't start with the sim because I don't always need it. So I start it when I need it. All right, we're getting there. Let's see here. 1 more minute, then we can really start this thing going here.
I'm back. No issues on the walk around.
Thank you. Not sure why that door just opened. I don't think I did that. Maybe it's catering. Might be FS2 crew automatically opening for catering. These guys are bulk loading today. Weird. Bulk loading a 320. Okay. I mean, it's not unheard of. It happens from time to time. Just weird. Okay, there you go. The IRSs are aligned. You're back from the walk around, so let's just do the last couple things we need to do before we can start the overhead flow, and that is initialize our ATSU system. Initialize that. Could I mute my phone just so it doesn't ring while we're doing this? Because it wouldn't be the first time I'd forgot to unmute it. All right, JetBlue 1423, Fort Lauderdale, New Orleans. Alternates down and over to Houston, which keeps us away from all those Gulf thunderstorms. An hour 34. That all sounds good. And let's grab a secondary so that we have a flight plan to work with. Nav accuracy is upgraded. GPS is primary. AOC secondary flight plan uplink. Fort Lauderdale to KMSY, Dolly, SRQ, Jambu. That looks kind of familiar from the flight plan, Fatso. I'm easily amused. What can I say? All right, secondary is activated. Check takeoff data. We will get around to that. I'm not going to do it yet. For now, we are going to just start with an overhead flow. Yeah, no lights. Position. Those are all in nav. Do a CDR test. Recon calls good. And we're saying today's not the first flight of the day, so we're not going to worry about fire tests. Fuel appears to be still in progress, so we're not going to touch that. And we don't need to check the batteries. External power's on, that's fine. Pack 2 can go off, although actually given the Florida weather, probably want Pack 2 on. And actually that makes me think right now. Let's just have another look before we dismiss starting the AP at this juncture. How are we looking in the back? Ooh, the flight deck is 30 degrees. Ooh, she got toasty in here. I'm going to start it for my own sake. Because once we start boarding, it ain't going to be much cooler in the cabin. So we'll turn that on. We'll see how that does with Pack 2 off. If we need to, we turn Pack 2 back on. But it saves a little bit of fuel burn, saves a little wear and tear on the APU having it off until you feel you need it. Usually until after start. All right, everything is good. 3005 on the meter. No flags. All right, everything's aligned. No flags, no smoking, parking brake, gas standby company message. All right, that's probably the load sheets. We'll get that eventually June 30th. It's good. Fuse down, lights are out, accumulator's good. 19.3 is up for the CTAF.
Hi, the security and safety check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Go for it.
Okay.
This way.
Thank you, GSX. Alright, they're doing that.
This way.
Let's see here. Those are all normal 12 o'clock. Pressurization, MSY at 0 feet. That makes sense. Cat 2 and off. The engines are off, so that's fine. Levers are good. It's off. It's normal. Brake, letting you down. Just going to take you off for now. And we got, let's see, transponder 1, we're at standby. TARA. And we did have an ATC message here from Auto ATC 1343. Please squawk 1343 for our flight today. 1343. Done. Alright, so 1 FD2. 1 FD2. Altimeter 3005 indicating 10 feet. 3005 indicating 10 feet. 3005 indicating 10 feet. And heading 052, 052, 052, 052, 052. Beauty. Alright, into the box for the setup here. Let's just do that. Alright. Starting from the top here. So we got the data page, the A320-200 with the, not the CFM, the V2527 Alpha 5 engines. Database is current until the 10th of July. Today is the 30th of June. Performance factor of +1. I didn't see anything to detune, so nothing is currently deselected. And initialization, so again, I got to repopulate this flight number here, JetBlue 1423. We're going from Fort Lauderdale to New Orleans with an alternative Houston. We've checked the IRS initialization already. Let's pull up the flight plan here and let's get some data going here. So we've got a cost index of 5 and a cruise level of 380. 5 with a cruise at 380. Beautiful. And into the flight plan page. So again, we're departing. The plan is runway 10 left right now. ATC comes online. We may change that. Let's just have a look what the flight plan says here. So what city are we flying? We're flying the Be Nice 2. Be Nice 2, I'm guessing. Be Nice 2 to Dolly. And then for the arrival, we're planning runway 02. There's no star. So Be Nice 2, Dolly transition. So 10 left, Be Nice 2, Dolly transition. That's good. And then for arrival into New Orleans, we don't have a star, but we're going to plan the ILS to 02 right now with no star from this direction. We can have the OLED VA in there. That's fine. Insert that. All right, go back to the flight plan page. We have no steps. We have no user-defined waypoints. And a total distance, ground distance of 626. I got 645. That's very reasonable. With some vector legs in there, perhaps, that are not accounted for. All right, so let's see if we can store this here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I have yet to figure out the logic of why it sometimes does and sometimes doesn't. But anywho, 1423, store it. Hey, it worked. Nice. All right, so compare that to the flight plan. Usually the last fix goes missing and the SIDS and stars are not in there. But we do have direct Dolly, so we do have the star in there. So after Dolly, Yankee 280 to Redfin, and then Quebec 105 to HRV, and then it's direct. So that all looks really good. RadNav page, auto-tune is good for this departure. Secondary, we'll do a straight copy, and then we'll do an immediate return. So the elbow room, YOLO. I've been to the elbow room now. I'll do it after YOLO. So we'll do a new destination of back to KFLL, and we'll plan again 10 left. So if we have to do an immediate return, anything serious happens right after departure, ILS 10 left is in. Oops. So Fort Lauderdale 10 left, we got a discon, and then we got the ILS to 10 left here. The primary flight plan still has Fort Lauderdale 10 left to New Orleans runway 02. Perfect. Initialization Bravo page, taxi point to the route reserve 0, alternate. All right, so alternate of Houston requires 2.2 and a final reserve of, we'll call it 1.1. So 2.2, 1.1, and then come over here, and we should be able to dig up some weight and balance numbers here. Let's see here. Receive messages. So that was the preliminary load sheet. Looks like we've already got a final load sheet. So ZFW 56.7. 56.7. We can accept that. By 30.9. No, sorry, 33.5. 30.9 for the takeoff. 33.5. 30.9 for the takeoff. Which gives me a CG reading of about 0.6 nose down. So we'll put that on the performance page, 0.6 down. Something around there anyways. Cruise above max flight level. Alright, so we'll come back to that because it's going to appear again here. Block fuel. So per the flight plan, we're supposed to have 9 tons. And if you believe the fuel gauge, it says 10,460. Why does it say 10,460? Because I changed the standby. Because that's not the right version of the flight plan. That was the old version. Let's make sure we got the correct release up here. So this is, let's see here, this is release number 4 for this flight plan. I've made modifications to it. Now we have the amended, corrected MEL numbers. And 10,475 is correct. So we'll just put 10.4 in for the start. And again, we would go to the fuel page. It looks like it's all accurate here. The mechanic's going to go outside. He's going to check underneath the belly of the airplane. He's going to go and check the magnetic stick. It's going to basically come down and say it's at max measurable level, which will translate to probably about 700 kilos. So 10.4 is fine for the fuel on board. But if we don't believe the gauge, we would verify it with those magnetic indications. Gives us a takeoff weight of 66.9. And we did 67.1, which is perfect. Wind component for this. For the gross check, average wind component of plus 10. All right, so it's going to give me 4.3, 138. I've got 4.1 for 134, so that's pretty close. And an extra of 2.8, so I've got 2.6 right here, plus another 0.2 for the contingency 2.8. That's very reasonable. So we can zero that out, get the actual winds. And we can also load our performance in a second here. This is going to come back in about 5 seconds. Normally we keep moving on, but because in the sim it comes back so quickly, it's all blue. That's all we need to know. All right, so let's go back over to the tablet again. And again, review all this. So we do have a good weight here, 67.1. We've got optimal flap, force toga, anti-ice off, packs on. And for 10 left, this does give us 500-foot shift with a flaps 3 departure, up 0.2. Let me sync that load sheet again, because something doesn't jive here. See, it's getting a MAC takeoff weight of 31, which according to my takeoff CG trim position scale should be like 0.4 nose down. Let me hit calculate one more time. There we go. I just had to calculate again. There we go. Okay. So now we've recalculated 10 left, 500 foot, down 0.5. That's much more reasonable. Flaps 3, still 59. Yeah, that all looks good. So let's send that to the MCDU, and it should all be in there. 10 left. Wet runway numbers, just in case it does start raining. 500-foot takeoff shift. Flaps 3 departure. No 0.5 down on the stab. Flex of 59. 126, 138, 141. 18. Standard transition 18. 126, 138, 141. 126, 138, 141. Got a bit of a V1 VR split there because of the wet runway. 1510 across the bottom. And what am I doing here? And normally I would say we're going to be 10-10. We're not going to be 15-10. We're going to do a normal noise 2 departure, which is accelerate and reduce thrust at 1,000 feet. So let's do that. 10 left. Next phase 214. The green dot speed. That's pre-selected for the climb. We'll automatically switch to that. The prog page now says max is at 36.9. We're planned to cruise at 38, but that's going to be a little bit high here. Optimal at 34. And actually, did that change on this newest flight plan? It did. On OFP2, I'm just looking over here on the other screen, it did change to 360, so that's why it all kind of doesn't jive right now. That's why you got to make sure you're working with the right flight plan. I don't believe we changed the route, but let's just have a quick look at the front page here and make sure nothing else substantial changed. We still got cost index 5, 360 is the altitude now. All the rest of that seems very reasonable. Now that we figured out our fuel load discrepancy there, I think we're good. All right, GPS primary nav accuracy is high, and IRSs are all naving at 0.2. Very good. Very close to the center of the airfield. All right. We don't have any...
Hi guys, here is the load sheet for you.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a safe flight.
All right, we still don't have any ATC online, so the clearance is all we're going to get, so we're just going to plan to fly the filed route. And let's pull up the charts again here. Not that. Where are my charts? Charts. All right, so we are doing the Be Nice 2 departure. Let's just go through it here and make sure we got everything we need in here. So, speed, accelerate 250 until leaving 10,000 if unable to advise ATC. We'll plan on that. 10 left, heading 096 to intercept course of 080 to elbow, then on 026 to cross room at or above 4,000. Then on track 347 to YOLO. Then on track 298 to Lyric. Then on track 285 to cross Marino above 4,000. And after that, it's Be Nice Korea Dolly. So let's just make sure that that's... It looks kind of like it's all in there on the plan. If I do this, kind of like this, you can see both. I do see intercept. And let's do this here. So we got 096 course, intercept course 080 to elbow. Then to room above 4,000, YOLO Lyric. And I can put it on plan mode here and we can see all of the stuff going on here. YOLO Lyric, Marino above 4,000 again, and then it's Korea, Be Nice Korea Dolly. So that's all in there, so that all looks good. Are you ready for the takeoff briefing? Are you ready for the departure briefing?
Go ahead.
All right, and he actually reminded me to get all this stuff up here, which is actually good. Before I do the briefing here, I'm just going to type the stuff in real quick here. So speed, so takeoff is 10 left. We got a speed of 126, 138. It's quite a bit of a split there, so don't be surprised when there's a little hesitation. 41, flexing 59, cruising altitude 36,000. Takeoff CG percentage is about 30%. No, 31%, we'll say. Yeah, 30%, whatever. Weather, good, yeah, sure. Radar required, pushback required, config 3, yes. Thrust reduced, threats none. That's all looks good. Okay, so he's going to do all the right stuff here. All right, so what I've got for you today, buddy. Technical status of the airplane. We do have the MEL for the fuel. We are going to deal with that. We do have one after start procedure, so once we start the engines, we'll do that as part of the status check. No TAMs. I didn't see anything that really affects departure off runway 10 left here in Fort Lauderdale. So the departure today is the Be Nice 2 RNAV departure, plate 10-3 Alpha for Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International. The speed note accelerates 250 until leaving 10,000, so accelerate 250 as quickly as we can. We'll just make sure we make room at 4,000 and we'll accelerate for sure after that. Radar required for non-GPS, jet aircraft only, Merck's transition ATC assign only. See additional requirements on the AAUP page. The top altitude is 4,000, so I've got 4,000 feet set. Roger, 4,000. Let's see here. The AAUP page is not going to say too much. It's just a standard RNAV SID AAUP page. So we could read it all, but basically pre-flight, we're going to make sure pre-plan runway using guidance section 5, ensure all transitions are selected displayed correctly, ensure correct sequence of waypoints, use the legs waypoint to verify routing, ensure altitude set in the altitude window, it matches what we've been cleared. Do not modify or manually construct RNAV procedures. Advise ATC if unable to verify or correct loading or if unable to comply with the SID before takeoff. Verify all modifications. Verify aircraft symbol relative to the runway before we depart. Confirm proper navigation. FMS displayed. Line up at takeoff. Expect a clearance that will include RNAV to the first waypoint. So it's RNAV to elbow. Runway 28 right clear for takeoff. Verify the names and correct runway SIDs are shown after takeoff. Fly as soon as practical but no later than 400 feet. Fly the departure. Gauge LNAV. Strict compliance is required. Manual intervene if necessary to stay on track. If unable to comply with SID profile, advise ATC. So that's sort of all that sort of stuff's on the AAUP page. Noise abatement, nothing published. We're just going to follow the SID. That's going to be our noise abatement. We're going to do noise 2 departure and engine out procedure off of runway 10 left. We'll just go straight out over the ocean, level off at 3,000 feet and deal with it. The yeah, let's see here. The performance in the box again. For the departure off runway 10 left, it's a wet runway departure as planned. 500-foot takeoff shift for the Bravo 2 intersection. We can clear that if we get the full length. Flaps 3 departure. Flex of 59, V1 126, VR 138, V2 141. Bit of a split there. Transition 18,000, 10 across the bottom. 214. The green dot speed is pre-selected for the climb. It's going to be a managed departure. We have climb blue, nav blue. We'll get the autopilot on probably around 1,000 to 2,000 feet. Once we get everything going here. And yeah, RadNav is auto-tuned, so that should give us a localizer as we line up on the runway. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I've missed here. I think I've covered everything. Threats for this departure, obviously no ATCs. We're going to have to coordinate on the CTAF frequency. We've got the potential of aircraft not using the CTAF, so we'll also use our eyeballs to keep an eye out for traffic. Weather is obviously a factor on departure. We'll get the weather radar on, but unfortunately it doesn't work in the sim, so we're going to mostly do the weather radar by looking out the window, seeing what's out there, and avoiding it as applicable. I think that's about it. Anything else you guys can think of that I've missed? And I think we got a pretty... just trying to think here. I think I've got everything pretty much taken care of there. So quick fuel load logbook check. So fuel is now boarded, balanced. It is sufficient for the flight, and the pumps can go on at this time. We have nothing in the center tank. Seatbelts are also on. Load. We've got the final numbers there already in, and the logbook we'll say is already checked. We can take away the external power, get this guy, the APU bleed going here, which is why we originally started the APU, was to get some air conditioning going. And I'm sure if I probably felt the temperature in here, I probably would have said, hey, let's 37 degrees in the flight deck. Yeah, let's, and it got really warm in the back actually too. Look at it, it's a realistic, with a full airplane, that's a pretty realistic situation. So I should have turned that air conditioning on right after a 3-minute warm-up period for the APU. I think that's everything I need to do. We'll not talk about OEBs. We won't talk about the emergencies today. Yeah, no single engine taxi out. It's going to be a fairly quick taxi. And I'm not sure if this FO knows how to do the start anyways. So I think that's all I've got. Any questions?
No questions.
All right, they said they're good to go. Go ahead and close the door.
Fort Lauderdale traffic, Spirit Wings 1367 is 40 miles to the north on the 2 to 3 arrival through 12,000 feet. Descending to make left traffic.
Before start checklist.
Parking brake.
Set.
Hello,
On.
Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Set.
Takeoff speeds and thrust.
V1 126, VR 138, V2 141, flexing 59 degrees.
V1 1 2 6 VR 1 3 8 V2 1 4 1 flex temp 5 9 degrees.
Departure checks completed.
Windows.
Bypass pin inserted.
Closed.
Beacon.
On.
Before start checklist completed.
All right, we didn't do too bad. We're about 1 minute late so far. By the time they
Hey
get this
guys,
hooked up, we get the
all
brakes
packs
off.
are on board.
Oh, there she goes.
Are we clear to close?
Clear to close.
Locking gear.
Thanks. Let me know if you need anything.
No, don't bring the brakes back. Ugh, honestly. Take the bridge away. Take it away. Take it away. There you go. I think FS2 crew triggered that one. Oh, good times. Alright, so they're hooking up downstairs. We're about 2 minutes late leaving. In the grand scheme of things, not too bad. And already look at the cabin temperature dropping. And the flight deck temperature dropping with that cool air blowing in there. Good. Good, good, good.
Release parking brakes, please.
Sorry, that's loud. Just going to look. We do have some traffic, but nobody's in the alley, so we're good. All right, so communication's okay. Brakes are set.
Release Release parking brakes, please. Commencing push.
Brakes are off, ready for pushback and delaying engine start until advised. Thank you. Give me a second to talk. Starting engine 2.
Okay.
Please set parking brakes.
Fort Lauderdale traffic, JetBlue 14906, established
Alright,
ILS
picture set,
runway
confirm the pins
10
removed.
right, 10 mile final, Fort Lauderdale traffic.
Starting engine 1. Starting engine 1.
Okay.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed.
Revert to hand signals and have a great day.
Left is clear, right is clear.
Alright, I see she's got the pin. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Alright. Engines 2 and 1 appear to be normal. Go ahead with after start checklist. After start checklist.
Anti-ice.
Off.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Pitch trim.
Uh, 0.5 down. Set and checked.
Rudder trim.
Neutral.
After start checklist completed.
Alright.
Fort Lauderdale traffic, JetBlue 14906,
So we still got
short
fuel
final
pumps.
runway 10 right,
Good.
Fort Lauderdale traffic.
Alright. And away we go. Let's just check our taxi chart here real quick.
Fort Lauderdale traffic, Spirit Wing 1367 is entering a
Go ahead.
left downwind runway 10 left.
Tango
8000.
5, Charlie. Charlie 4, runway 10 left. Clear left side.
Clear right side.
Fort Lauderdale traffic, JetBlue 1423 is taxiing for departure, runway 10 left via Tango 5 Charlie. I guess it helps to take the parking brake off. There we go. That definitely got it moving. Give it just a little bit of gas to get her going here. Alright, and the sun is kind of going down, so I may opt to change the time in the sim later if it starts to get really dark. But I'm hoping we can kind of get to New Orleans and kind of chase the sun and not have it get too dark by the time we get there. That's my hope. We'll see how it works out. Alright, so we're going to go right here, then we're going to take the left onto Tango 5 for Charlie. Once we're on there, we can do all the checklists. Brake check.
Pressure 0.
Alright, we're underway for the end of Season 12 of A Pilot's Life. I can't believe how much flying I've done. I can't believe how many of you guys keep on watching me do it. I love it, though. It's tons of fun. It's great fun. It's great to demonstrate just how well this sim platform really, truly can work. I think he must have done a go-around. He didn't like something that happened. Alright, so this is Charlie here. Nobody coming up Charlie the other side.
Fort Lauderdale traffic, JetBlue 14906, vacated runway 10 right, taxiing to gate St. Juliet, Hotel Tango 8, Fort Lauderdale traffic.
Alright, so there we go. We got a couple thousand feet to taxi in a straight line here down Charlie to get to the runway. Flight control check.
Ready. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral.
I love this pedal disconnect. It's a fantastic thing here. Absolutely fantastic. Taxi checklist.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Checked. Flap setting.
Config 3.
Config 3. Radar and predictive wind shear system.
On and auto.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
ECAM memo.
Stand by for that. Oh, there she goes. Flight deck captain speaking.
The cabin is now secure for takeoff.
Thank you. Takeoff, no blue.
Taxi checklist completed.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome
That was excellent timing. Excellent timing. I love it.
Please direct your attention to the cabin crew for important safety information. There is an instruction
Alright, just going to take one quick look at a pilot's life, make sure it is tracking. Yeah, we're taxiing out, it's tracking, it's doing it, we're good.
Regulations require compliance
Alright.
with this information as well as all crew instructions, lighted information signs, and posted. Placards fasten your seatbelt by inserting the metal tip into the buckle. Tighten by pulling on the belt to release your seatbelt. Lift a metal flap on the buckle. It is our policy that you keep your seatbelt fastened at all times while seated. Doors are clearly marked with exit signs and instructions for door operation.
Alright, since we got no ATC, we're going to take the full length. I'm going to clear that takeoff shift. It's going to show full length there.
In an emergency, lights will illuminate the aisle. The cabin is pressurized. If there is a loss of cabin pressure,
Head shoot man wants to know if I'm planning to get the 777. I'm not planning to, because I already do have it.
remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and pull a mask towards you to start the flow of
And
oxygen.
maybe I was thinking about this. Maybe the next
Oxygen will
stream,
be flowing to the mask
we could go fly the
so
777 around a
mask
little
may
bit.
not
Not on a pilot's life, but just for
Cover
fun.
your nose and
I might
mouth
take
with the
a
mask.
one or two streams and take a hiatus from a pilot's life for a little bit, just to have a little bit of fun with some other stuff in the sim. So maybe,
Secure your own mask before assisting others.
so maybe we take the 777 up flying, just to have some fun with it, show what it can do, show some failures, etc. All right, focus on the departure here.
Upon exiting the aircraft,
Fort Lauderdale traffic. JetBlue 1423 taking position, runway 10 left, departure on the Be Nice departure.
Smoking is not permitted in the cabin or laboratories. Cabin lights will now be turned off.
Runway entry procedure.
Light buttons are located
Takeoff
above
runway confirm. Approach path clear of traffic. Cabin crew be
Four low
seated for
traffic,
takeoff.
Fairwind 1367, turning left base, runway 10 left. 4 low go.
Lineup checklist.
Takeoff runway.
10 left confirmed.
Runway 10 left confirmed. TCAS.
TARA.
Packs 1 and 2.
On.
Lineup checklist completed.
Here we go. Takeoff.
Check.
Manflex 59, SRS runway, auto thrust blue.
Checked. Thrust set. knots.
Roger.
Fort Lauderdale traffic, Spirit Wings 1367 is turning 25 mile final runway 10 left.
V1. Rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up.
Gear up. Pitch, pitch.
Speed.
Climb, alt blue. Thrust climb, auto thrust. Autopilot 1. Climb. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Fort Lauderdale traffic, JetBlue 1423 is airborne off of runway 10 left and the left turn out on the Be Nice departure. $16,000 feet set. Flap 0.
Speed checked. Flaps 0.
I'm going to keep it at green dot speed for just a moment. Just to make sure we make room above 4,000. That flaps 3 departure, that really kind of took a little while to accelerate and start climbing. We have 2.2 miles to climb 800 feet. I think we're going to do it. But not with a lot to spare here. Alright, there's 4,000 feet. So now speed's managed. Accelerate to 250 per the SID. After takeoff checklist. I don't know if they have one here. Gears up, flaps are up. All good. I don't see too much out there in terms of weather, so that's looking good. And I don't know, is that the Spirit Wings touchdown there? From 25 miles, it seemed pretty soon to touch down. But anyways, if he was 20 miles final, I don't think we're too much of a conflict with them. We're going to get Unicom up now, because last time I flew, I forgot to get Unicom up for hours. Alright, but there we go. We accelerated 250, we're passing through 5,000. I said 16,000 initially for the climb. Let's go ahead and just set 360. We got no ATC right now. The closest we do have Jack Center, but no Miami Center yet. There's Jack Center. I don't think we're actually going to fly through Jack Center airspace. Let's see here. Actually, we might. Once we get over the Gulf, the Jacksonville Center does kind of come pretty far south. So if I can... No, not that one. I can pull this up here and just close this off here. So if I can put on airspace as a layer. Let's go IFR first of all. IFR low. There we go. So yeah, here's the border of Jacksonville here, this green line. So after charge, we're going to go through Jacksonville for a little while until we get to Nate. So there we go. So we're going to chase the sun for a little bit. If it gets really dark, I may even back the time up a little bit. But let's see how it goes here. Let's have a little bit of fun with it. And yeah, a little high on pitch there on the departure, but we got her done in the end. And I don't see this weather that's on the radar here. Nothing looking too terrible out here. What's the TAT? The TAT's got to be really warm right now. 28 degrees on the ground. TAT's plus 21 here, so not too worried about the TAT. Let's go ahead and just pull this up and look at the weather radar again here over Florida. Going through 10,000, so it looks like there's some weather off to the north of us near Palm Beach, but it looks like we're going to nicely cut through most of it. Maybe a little one cell just offshore. We'll have to deviate around after John Boo. So off to the north, there's supposed to be some stuff up there, but up ahead actually looks pretty good. We are through 10,000 feet, so there's 10,500, climbing flight level 360. She's accelerating, lights are off, seatbelts. Just wait till we get through this cloud here. Let's see here. RadNav is, we can reset. There's the airport selection. RadNav is not required. Secondary, I'll recopy that. Prog page says we're still good up to 371, planning at 36, optimum down at 35. That's reasonable. And let's see here, we've got 21.5 up on number 2 for guards, so we'll start listening to that. And cabin is pressurizing. Fuel is good. And what did I forget to do? I forgot to do the fuel flow procedure in the after start section. And I even thought about it, even as I was doing it, and then we sort of just started going here. So what you have to do is you have to just manually enter in the fuel on board. If you believe the gauge, you can copy it from the gauge. And then it switches to fuel flow mode. And basically what it does now is, instead of taking input from the actual fuel tanks, so the fuel sensors in the fuel tanks, what it's now doing, so before it was FF plus FQ, which meant that it was a combination of the fuel flow through the engines and the fuel quantity that was determining how much fuel what the FMS says is left. Now we switch to just purely a fuel flow mode. So it says, so we're saying we started with 9.6, we're going to stay in fuel flow mode. And we're not going to take any input from the fuel quantity. So what was happening was, even in flight before, this was fluctuating between 720. Like every couple of minutes we'd look at it, it would be gone, it would be up and down. So the total fuel on board was fluctuating up and down. So if it was feeding that into the FMS, we wouldn't have a realistic vision. So basically what we've done is we told the FMS, disregard the fuel quantities being reported by the airplane at this time. We believe we started with this amount, and just subtract from that as the fuel is burned by the engines, the fuel flow from the engines. Subtract that from our burn, and use that to calculate how much fuel is left in the tanks when we get to our destination. The idea being that if we believe these fuel tank quantities to be potentially erroneous, which was the case, it was happening, it was fluctuating, we'd be sitting there, and 1 minute it would say 9,500, we come back to it a few minutes later, it would say 8,800, and then a couple minutes later it would say 9,500 again. So because that was erroneous, we didn't believe it, so we know what we started with. We know because we physically checked the magnetic tanks before we left, checked the tanks with the magnetic dipsticks before we left. We know how much physical fuel was in the tank. We start from there and we just say, okay, the engines are burning a known quantity per hour. How much fuel should be left in the tanks? I wouldn't trust this down to the last pound or the last kilogram by any means, but it's certainly more than accurate enough to give us a realistic estimate over our destination, a realistic estimate over all of our en route waypoints, extra fuel, that sort of stuff. So now we're no longer going to get any information from our fuel quantity gauges going into the FMS. Those two systems have been disconnected by switching to fuel flow mode. When you're in fuel flow plus fuel quantity, FF plus FQ mode, then it takes information from both sources and kind of combines the two to say, we believe we have this much fuel in the tank. So if either one is completely out of whack, it'll kind of disregard that, but it'll combine, as long as they reasonably agree, it'll kind of combine the two to figure out how much fuel we have left in the tank and how much fuel we're going to have left when we get to our destination. All right. Whew. I feel like I'm talking a lot here already. Let's see here. So what are we going to go? We're going to go over 59 Delta. I think that's the jet. Is that the JetPort? No, TNT I think is the JetPort. Is the JetPort. I'm not sure if we'll see TNT. It's about 30 miles away. But TNT is an interesting little airport. And I think I talked about this last time. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe I talked about it with somebody else. But I think that's it right there. That little kind of, there's a little white stripe just way off in the distance. You can just barely see it, but I believe that's TNT. So TNT, KTNT, is the Miami JetPort. There's standard.
Standard cross-checked. Passing flight level 190.
Thanks, buddy. All right, I think we're above most of the weather now, so we can go ahead and go seatbelts off. I'm just going to turn the lights up a little bit. Thank you. Yeah, so Miami JetPort. It's a weird little vestige of history. So basically, at the dawn of the supersonic era, when the Concorde was first being developed, the powers that be in Miami looked at the airport that they had and said, this airport's not going to be long enough to service the Concorde and other potential future supersonic aircraft. We need an airport with a longer runway. So what they ended up doing was out in the middle of the Everglades, about 30 or 40 miles west of Miami, they planned on building this huge jetport of the future with these huge long runways. I think it's 12,000 feet or something like that. Let's just look it up here. 12 or 14,000 feet, which especially for a sea level airport, that's a long runway. KTNT. 10,500 feet. Okay, so it's 10,500. This is all that ever got built. So the idea was this was going to be Miami's major international airport. It was going to be a hub for supersonic airplanes. So they had planned to build these 10,000-foot runways with potential to extend them even further. Like there's nothing around. It's swamp on all sides. So you could have built, you could have extended this to 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,000 feet if you needed to for the aircraft of the day. And of course, there were going to be multiple parallel runways, that sort of thing, whole terminal complex. Now, instead, it's the Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport where they do things like flight testing as well as training. But it's basically, it's out in the middle of nowhere, and there's just like 2 buildings at this airport. So it was supposed to be the airport of the future. They built the runway, and then they never built the rest of the airport. The jet age kind of bombed out, for lack of a better word, flamed out even. The Concorde became sort of a one-off. Instead of being the future, it was just sort of a one-off design, as we all know now. Of course, hindsight being 2020, but at the time, that was their plan for the future, was to build this huge airport out in the middle of the swamp. And so it still is there. If you go on to like Google Maps, you'll still find it, but and there's literally nothing there. If I can just zoom in really quick here, I believe it's right about here, I believe. And it's easier to find on the satellite view. There it is. And that's it. That's all it is. It's literally like 1, 2 buildings, a small ramp, this crazy parallel taxiway for such a small little airport. Not a small little airport, but just literally the middle of nowhere. Literally the middle of nowhere, the middle of the swamp. And the whole idea was that they were going to close the international airport down most likely, and this was going to be Miami's, at South Florida's hub airport for supersonic travel. And obviously that future never came to pass, and this is one little kind of like I said, one little vestige of what was supposed to be and never actually happened. So cute little, interesting little tidbit of history there. All right. So far, so good. Did I take the seatbelts off? I did. How are we doing for temperature-wise? TATS +4. We're kind of coming through another cloud layer a little bit, maybe. The colors are absolutely gorgeous out there. Kind of coming through a cloud layer there. I might see if I can get some lighting going on here a little brighter so I can see what's going on in the flight deck a little better. And yeah, I feel like we might have to backdate this sun by an hour or two. And I only have like a ±3 hours as an option. I wonder if there is another option that I can do. Time. Can I do smaller intervals? Time of day. Oh, I can do smaller intervals. Oh, fantastic. I love it. All right, so this tile will now take the clock back by an hour. So this is real time, which is where we are right now. This could take it back by an hour. So when it gets a little bit too dark, I could take it back by an hour just to kind of fly the sunset a little longer. Just because, and like I've said before, I don't hate streaming at night, but I think for you guys, it's for the most part, it's fairly boring because you don't, with the resolution of the stream, you don't see nearly as much detail as I get to see. So a lot of the lights just sort of turn into a blur or into nothing. So I kind of don't want to put you guys through that. I've watched some of the nighttime streams, and basically you're just listening to me talking while you're staring at a black screen with a couple of colored dots on it. It's not very worthwhile. So yeah, I think depending on how it goes here, I think we'll probably backdate about an hour before the landing into New Orleans. So yeah, we're at 26.7 for 36. Still got a little while to go through our climb here. But yeah, the big news I would say last week, and boy, what a reception. PMDG's 777 absolutely was the news of last week for the flight sim world, and it still is. And the statistics kind of bear this out. The statistics are almost mind-blowing at this point in time, and it's not. It's kind of the boom is kind of fading a little tiny bit. So here's the statsim.net website, and the key thing that I want to show you here is the breakdown on the right here of these are the types of aircraft that are currently being flown on the VATSIM network. And almost a full 50% of the 1,100 people on the network right now, 510 of them, are flying the 777, the Boeing 777-300. Most of them probably are flying the PMDG version. Maybe a couple other people are flying other versions. But for the most part, I would say it's being dominated. And in the days after that release, it was madness when you come to this page. And fully like 2/3 of the people flying on the VATSIM network were 777s. I've controlled yesterday, and probably about 75 to 80% of the airplanes that I saw depart Toronto yesterday were 777s. It's just absolutely mind-blowing how many people bought this airplane. It's just people have been absolutely chomping at the bit to get their hands on a good long hauler, and yeah, it's still being borne out by the numbers here, even close to a week later now. Still 500 people are flying it tonight. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of enthusiasm for this airplane. And yeah, like at certain big airports, especially airports that can really handle the 777. So places like Toronto, but also places like JFK and Miami, Dubai, London, Heathrow. I flew the 777 from Painfield out to Heathrow, landed in Heathrow in the morning. I guess it was the early afternoon by the time I got there, and it was insane. It was about 50% of the people logged in there, if not more, were all 777s flying around. It was just this airplane has just taken over the VATSIM network, and I'm sure that will fade away a little bit over time, and people will go back to flying their other airplanes. But just the release was insane, and to see some of the stuff like. Especially, and Rendazzo even encouraged this in his posts. He said, go simulate your delivery flights. Go start at Painfield in Seattle and go deliver your 777 to whatever your favorite airline's home base is, and then start flying it from there. And the number of people that were logged into Painfield that day and the next day, the day of release and the next day was just, again, it was insane. As people were downloading it and installing it and firing it up, literally 45 to 50 people on VATSIM were logged in at Painfield on the ground in a 777 getting ready to depart. There was actually ATC. Fortunately, the controllers, I think, kind of had a little bit of foresight here. The Seattle artsy controllers had a little bit of foresight here, and they set it up as an event. And that evening, when the 777 released, they had delivery, ground tower, they had a departure controller, en route controllers. They had everything so that all these people who were lined up there. And like I said, there were 45, 50 planes on the ground at some point departing. Hundreds of people probably departed. I wonder if we could go to see the airports. Can we see the history of the airport here? KPAE, and let's do this last week. KPAE. Wow. So KPAE in the last week was the 20th busiest airport on the VATSIM network with a total of 921 departures, only 65 arrivals in that time window, putting on tap with so let's scroll down here, but yeah, you know, putting it up here with like Sydney, Atlanta, EDDH. Oh, I should know what that is. That's not Munich, is it? No, EDM's Munich. I don't know what EDDH is. But like right up there, close to Boston, even. And then look at the number of departures. Even it's interesting, the airports that got a big effect from the 777 as well. London Heathrow, 2,500 departures, 600 arrivals. That's obviously a big international hub. Dubai as well, huge for the 777. And San Francisco, not huge for the 777 per se, but again, also promoted kind of hand in hand because the Flight Beams SFO just came out at the same time, and it's very good for handling it. But the rest of these all are very highly featured 777 type destinations until you get down to about Munich. I would say is kind of the first one. It's like not a big necessarily 777 destination. So the 777 had huge impacts. If we go to the day, let's see here. Let's do a custom, and let's just do. It was June 25th it released. So let's just do June 25th to June 26th. And let's just do it to 2300 Zulu just to make my things easy. But in this time period, KPAE was number 6 busiest airport in the world on the VATSIM network for that 2-day window. Again, why 316 departures, 161 arrivals, all because of pretty much all because of that 777. Like putting you up in unheard of territory for an airport like KPAE, which is not even really has a lot of airline service. It's a factory. It's where the 777 is built. It's where they fly out from. So it's really interesting to see that. I flew, and I did the same thing. And I've done that with almost all the airplanes I operate now. I start them off at a factory somewhere, and then I kind of fly them around the network, and I keep track of them with my Sim Toolkit Pro. Fleet tracker, right? It's really kind of fun. These planes have a continuous service life as long as I've flown them, as long as everything goes according to plan, but they have a complete service life. So if I can show you some of the ones that I've flown here, so let's take some of the 37s, for example, like a Southwest 737. It shows you the whole history of how you've flown this thing. Let's take this other 737, and you can see I've just done a whole bunch of kind of continuous flights with it. What other ones have I done here? This is the Canadian Express one. I've done a lot of stuff, but I just do this as one continuous just life with this airplane, and it just flies back and forth, whether it's to and from hubs or not. But that's how I kind of treat all of my airplanes. I just sort of fly them slowly. But I start them out of the factory and I fly them back to home base, and then it's always a continuous sort of. I never relocate them. They're always wherever I last left it is where I pick it up again the next time. All right, 35 for 36. Just going to monitor, make sure it does level off correctly. The weather looks good out the window. I don't see anything on the weather radar per se. It looks good out the window as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, in just a few moments, we'll begin.
Let's see what it looks like when we get to New Orleans. But for now, it looks good.
Please refer to the menu given to you on boarding for the 2 meal choices and your beverage choices available. We request that you keep the aisles clear to assist the flight attendants.
Let me know how you think the background noise is too. If you guys think it's too noisy in the background, please let me know. It's sometimes so hard to judge, like, you know, you see this kind of I see the level of the background noise, which is a constant kind of volume, and I see my talking, which kind of goes way above it, but also goes below it. And I think the balance is good, but please let me know if it's not. There's Mach Alt Star. Headshoot man, thank you. I see that you said all good, and I appreciate that, because it's so hard for me to judge just from looking at these levels, unless I take my headset off and go and listen to it on my other computer for a minute. Mach Alt Cruise procedure, so we're just going to go through the whole flight deck real quick, just make sure that all the switches are where they're supposed to be. We don't have any lights on that aren't supposed to be on. All the lights are normal where they should be. All good. Got airports is good. 36,000. That's fine. We are in cruise. No status messages. Center tank fuel pump's unusable. We just passed Dolly. When we get to SRQ, we'll do a quick little fuel check. It's been about 24 minutes since we took off. We're doing pretty good here. It's actually going to be a pretty quick flight. It's about an hour and a half, so we're not going to have all that much longer. In about 30 minutes, we're going to probably start setting up for the arrival already. And we're going to also need to keep our eyes outside to look at that weather as we head that direction. So we got to be ready for it. But in the meantime, we can talk about also, of course, the other flip side of the 777 and PMDG's success, of course, is their failure with the 777, which was, of course, the sales platform during the initial sales, where they just completely, again, and this is the thing that bothers me, is that I have to say, again, it was almost minute for minute, hour for hour, a rerun of the 737 debacle, where the system just could not keep up with the orders. I was lucky when I bought the 737 that I kind of I was right at the leading edge of the wave of people buying the 737, and I managed to get through the whole process in about 30 minutes, including the purchase, waiting for the authentication, the download, everything, get it installed. It was less than an hour from the start of the purchase to getting it done. This time, I was somewhere in the middle of the wave, so I was about 3 to 4 hours in total, because again, their system completely just collapsed under the weight of the number of emails they were trying to send out to verify all these all purchases and validate all these licenses and everything, and download links and everything. But the service, the order completed, and then that the funny thing is, like, the financial part worked really well. They took the money real quick, and then it took about 3 to 4 hours for them to send the link. And everyone's like, well, I remember back in the day we didn't have to mail order stuff, and I get that, and I'm not trying to troll PMDG per se, but it was the same story as last time, and at the same announcements in the forum, we were just completely overwhelmed and shocked by the surprise of it. We even had these talks with our infrastructure providers, and they said, yeah, they were ready for the peak based on I think they said they were planning to double the peak of the 37, and instead they got to about 7 times the peak of the 37 purchase orders in terms of the number of orders per second. I think they said they peaked in the first few minutes after release. They peaked at 6 orders per second being put through to the website, and after about 30 minutes to an hour, they had a backlog of about 6,000. I believe the backlog was 6,000 orders that were waiting to be processed and were in the backlog that just could not get processed as fast as they were coming in. All right, so let's just do this fuel check here at SRQ. It's midnight 25, and we got 8.3 in the tanks, if you believe it. So midnight 25. Where's SRQ? Here it is. Midnight 25. Actual time over is midnight 25. 26 minutes after, and we've been in the air for 31 minutes, which should have put us to John Boo, so that something's not quite right with that timer. But anyways, oh, you know, it's not actually running. But yeah, they got 27 minutes, which is good. Yeah, no, that's right. Okay, 27 minutes, that's good. 8.3 in the tanks, and what we should actually be doing is verifying this on our fuel prediction page, and based on the fuel flow alone, we should have 8.3 in the tank. So it looks like the number is kind of matching. Maybe we could trust the fuel gauge, maybe we can't. Let's just add some predictions down the line, and yeah, 0040, 0041, 0043, 054, 01, 0054, 0103, 0104, 0108, 0. It's not a long flight. Not sure if we're going to have enough time to talk about everything here. 0121, 0124, and 0133. All right, so yeah, I was disappointed. I was disappointed because I thought PMDG had learned from last time. Last time they really kind of dropped the ball, and they really had a lot of egg on their face after 37 sale, because the backlog got to several thousand, to at least a couple thousand orders. Their systems couldn't handle it, and it took quite a few hours for them to process everything. Everyone eventually got their product they ordered, but it's funny how the money taking part of the process was scaled really well, but then the product issuing part did not scale so well. Isn't it always funny how everyone's really good at taking your money, not necessarily good at providing what you wanted for it? in the same time window, you know. Anyways, the numbers blow my mind though. Like the fact that backlog got to 6,000, there were people that were processed through the before the backlog really started. But day one, easily, you're looking at, you have to figure that PMDG on day one sold 8,000 to 10,000 copies of the 777. And there's probably plenty of people out there who avoided the day one purchase because of all the issues PMDG has with trying to keep up with their sales, trying to keep their infrastructure up and running. And it's a lot of people wanted it, obviously. Like, there are hundreds of people flying it on VATSIM. There's thousands of people who bought copies and they're flying it on their computer at home. It obviously extremely popular in the community, something really eagerly awaited. It's just a shame that PMDG couldn't handle that demand again. And they said, well, we were just absolutely shocked by it. We were floored by it because it was 5 to 7 times higher than what the 737 demand had been. And I think when the 737 came out, like, what a hotly anticipated airplane that was. I think possibly more than the 777, I would have thought, because it was the first really, truly high-quality jet that was released for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Like, at least now, like, with, if you don't buy the 777 on day one, you can still bomb around in a 320 or a 37 or, a Mad Dog. There's lots of good jet airliners out there. There's lots of good airplanes out there. But when the 37 released, it was the leading edge of all the really high-quality add-ons in terms of high-quality aircraft anyways for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I'm surprised that the 777 outsold it to the degree that it did, and maybe not in the long term, but certainly on the day one. I'm a little disappointed that they still were not ready for it, and they said the same thing. They said that their hosting providers, like, they provided their hosting providers, they said, with all the data from the 37 sales in terms of how many people were buying it for the first X number of minutes, first hour, first day, that kind of thing. And the hosting provider said, okay, we'll anticipate twice this traffic load, and we'll plan on that. And apparently that was a woeful under-planning. It's frustrating, because I would hope that PMDG should know better by now. Other than that, it was I will say they got through the backlog, I think, in about 90 minutes to 2 hours once they realized how much things were falling apart. I got mine, I probably got mine about 3 hours later. I can actually check my emails here and just see what time my purchase was completed and what time my let's see here. If I go to my email account here and just really quickly look at my PMDG stuff here from last week. So receipt for PMDG simulations was received at 9:43 p.m. and my verification code was sent at 12:16 a.m. So 2.5 hours later, almost 3 hours later. It's not terrible, but it was just annoying. I didn't actually get to fly the 777 that first night just because I booted it up and I took a quick look at it, and then I didn't actually get a chance to fly it. But I did fly it twice now, and I'm going to probably fly it again after this stream just for fun. But I did. I flew it twice twice the first week, one transcon haul and then one overseas haul. I really am looking forward to kind of expanding my simming world now. And it's funny how the 777 made the world bigger and smaller. Bigger in terms of, for me, because I feel like I have more destinations that I can go to. I'm used to being a North American based pilot, so I kind of my worldview and the way I fly the sim kind of evolves from that. So I'm looking forward to kind of starting to expand my repertoire with a bunch of other overseas airports now that I otherwise would not have flown to. But yeah, I'm looking forward to trying out some different stuff. I was thinking, like, I don't think I've ever flown to Sydney, so I think I'd like to try and do that. It's a long flight, but maybe I'll do a flight to Sydney one of these days. That sort of thing. Like, just try and do things different places, but at the same time makes the world a smaller place, because now all these places are within reach. You're not kind of limited. So, Headshoot Man said, I think the payments processors are already ready to scale, and PMDG software is not hosted correctly. I think just the process that PMDG wants to go through, where they kind of individually validate and send out each order via an email, I think is just a little awkward. And I get it. I get the idea of piracy. I mean, apparently, the same night that it was released, it was already on the pirate websites. I'm going to say, in this day and age, you can't stop the pirates. I'm not saying make it easy for them, but you're not going to probably stop them. Anything digital can and will eventually be broken and stolen. What you've got to do, I think, if you really want to succeed as a company, is provide the value for your users and convince them that there's value to not taking the shortcut, that there's value to paying for the product. Pirating it didn't even cross my mind because I know PMDG put years of work into this. I want them to continue to put years of work into more airplanes. I think that maybe the price might have been a little bit on the steep side. It was $777 $2. It was $77.73 US, which is, again, we're starting to get back into that P3D era of pricing, and it seems like a lot of the big developers are starting to have a little bit of a pricing war in terms of seeing who can charge the most for their product again. Do I think I'm going to get enough flying out of it to make that purchase price worth it? I think I will. But again, for only one variant as well, like, it's really starting to get up there. Like, it makes me question, what are the remaining variants going to cost, and how much, just for sake of comparison, how much will the full package cost if you want to? And this is one of those things that I think, again, PMDG I think could serve their customers a little better, is offer a little incentive discount if you bought one of the variants. And I'm not saying a big discount, but like, if you've gone out and you've already bought the 777-300, and then when they release the freighter version, you want to buy the freighter. If you bought the 300, I think you should be entitled to like a $5 discount, maybe even a $10 discount, some kind of discount, some kind of recognition. Yes, you already paid for this once, because I've talked to some people, and there have been a couple people that have made the same comment that, like, I have paid PMDG so much money over the years, I'm not sure I'm going to pay them anymore. And they keep doing good work. But at the same time, like, yeah, like, you add up how much people have paid for PMDG products in the FSX era and the P3D era. Now we're into the MSFS era. And in the previous eras, like, how many different airplanes did you buy? Like, you bought the 37, you bought the 47, you bought the 777. Okay, now, P3D, okay, you bought the 37 again, and the 777, and the 47. Now we're in MSFS. You buy the DC6, you buy the 37, you buy the 777, and, eventually buy the 47 or whatever other projects you got coming out. MSFS 2024 coming out too. Yeah, don't even get me started on that. I think I've said almost everything I have to say about the 777, but I would like to go fly it with you guys. I think it's going to be fun. It really looks really good. It feels big. It feels heavy. You're taxing the thing around. I've mostly taxed around pretty light so far. I haven't done any like full gross weight departures, but like it feels like a big airplane. It seems to handle like a big airplane. I like that. I really do. It's got that feeling of it. The flows came back pretty quickly. I hadn't flown the 777. I flew it in the P3D era. I hadn't probably flown it for probably the full 4 or 5 years since I moved over to MSFS. It came back pretty quick. It took a little bit of time to kind of get just through some of the stuff, but that first flight, I was actually airborne in less than an hour. From the time I fired up the sim till I was airborne was less than an hour, which I think is pretty good for a new type. Not a new type, but a type that, like, I was back to reading the whole SOP again. Okay, do this switch, that switch. Okay, external power. Okay, now you got to do the IRS, the ADIRs, make sure the ADIRU's online. The hydraulics, the fuel, like all that, like doing it step by step. I still got it done in about an hour. I was pretty happy, pretty satisfied with that. And then there will be an MSFS, 2024, and some of the stuff, and I find it funny, some of the stuff that's coming up here. All right, 3592 for Jacksonville. So we're coming up to where Jacksonville Center's airspace is going to be. So I'm going to tune them up here. Because I was watching some of the stuff that I haven't watched the whole thing, but I've watched part of the live stream that they did at FS Expo, and some of the stuff they talked about, and then some of the interviews, and it was it's really interesting. It doesn't have me as excited as 2020 did, because I feel like 2020 was a revolution compared to the previous generation when they started harnessing all the power of live streaming scenery and cloud computing, and all the terabytes and the petabytes of streamed data, of processed, world satellite data, all that stuff. that felt like a revolution. 2024 feels like it's going to be more of an evolution again. It's going to be a step. It's going to be an iteration. It's not going to be a total changeover. It's the same basic sim, but with a lot of improvements. Ray tracing's added. They've added ray tracing. They've gone to 3D materials on the ground. You know, you can go do the walk around on your airplanes. They've really set the bar higher with airports trying to be busier, look busier, feel busier. Engaging with more and more developers to provide more airports right at the get-go, more airports, more aircraft, lots of interesting adventures to have. Not that I'm ever really terribly hard-pressed to have adventures. I can always find something to do in the sim, it seems. But nevertheless, you know, I've done quite a few bush trips. Maybe some of the other stuff would be good. I'm not against it per se. I'm just not as excited about it as I was about 2020, just because I feel like it's a step, but it's not a sea change that's going to really revolutionize simming quite to the same degree. So I'm still excited for it. I think there's some really neat stuff they're doing. I like the idea of going out there and doing the walk around and actually being able to walk around, not just like maneuvering the drone camera around, which is kind of awkward sometimes, but actually walking a character around the airplane, because that is an aspect of aviation. I was like, it's not a walking simulator. I'm like, it's not. But it's an aviation simulator, it's a flight simulator, and a big part of flying is going and doing a walk around before you go flying, making sure that the aircraft is suitable, looking at the whole outside of the airplane. So that is an aspect of aviation. I think it's funny that people complain that, oh, that's not really part of aviation. It is a part of aviation, really. It's not just about punching numbers in a box and pushing up the thrust levers and away you go. There's a lot of thinking and planning and things like that come into it, and that includes doing a thorough walk around on your aircraft to confirm that it is airworthy and ready for flight. The pilot, at the end of the day, is one of the last chains in the one of the last links in the chain of preventing an accident, and part of that is doing a good walk around on the outside of the airplane and making sure that the plan you have is sound. Your dispatcher is going to help you out, but everybody's human. They all make mistakes. It's up to the pilot to really kind of look at it and catch those mistakes and make sure everything is going to be sufficient. All right, I'm going to tune up Jacksonville now.
13,000.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Still learning the American airspace over here. I will program that down. Thank you so much.
Maybe it's a little bit loud to me, so I'm going to turn it down just a bit.
Jack Center, 415, if you get 5 minutes out of flight 6, that'd be great. United 2060, make sure you put the BAM transition, Bravo Alpha Alpha Mike Foxtrot, when you put that arrival in.
United 2060, copy.
Jacksonville Center, good evening. JetBlue 1423, flight level 360, approaching charge at the southwest corner of your airspace. Or not.
JetBlue 1423, Jacksonville Center, reset transponder, squawk 6733.
Well, squawk 6733, JetBlue 1423.
And November 699, Echo Papa, pilot's discretion, descend and maintain 3000, report the field in sight.
Alright, we'll continue down to 3000 and we'll let you know if we get force in sight 9 Echo Papa.
If. He sounded very unconvinced. All right. I feel like I'm too bright and washed out here, and I don't know why.
Tracking director Olane. Was there an altitude for us, sorry, as well, to Olane?
United 2060, cross Olane at and maintain 1313,000.
Here, I feel like I'm a little bit less washed out there.
Olane at 13,000. Thank you.
And United 2060, the Tampa altimeter is going to be...
So Head Shoot Man said, I just want the airports to look much better by default. Better performance to CPU gates to always work. Fuel trucks to work, boarding, deboarding, etc. I have to say, like, that's on my list as well, absolutely. I want the default airports to look better. Not just the ones they spend a lot of time on, but the default generation to look better. Absolutely, 100% agree with that. It's frustrating flying the default airports. They look like junk sometimes. Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. The performance is pretty good. Could there be tweaks? I think there could, but I think it's generally pretty good. I'm not terribly one. But another big one that I would love to see them really kind of find a way to work it out for VATSIMers. I would like to see all of us with working gates on VATSIM. That would be Because if you do pretty much any of the other artificial traffic simulations where traffic is inserted in the sim and it's controlled then by the sim.
November 6 Echo Papa, the Florence altimeter 29 or 9 or 8.
I'm going to turn him down just a wee bit.
9 or 8, 9 Papa.
You know, if the aircraft are controlled by the sim, then the jet bridges work. The jet bridges come, tow trucks work, everything else like that.
Squawking the wrong code there. Squawk 1657.
1657.
But if I thought it was us for a second, but yeah, with VATSIM, of course, the airplane's not controlled by the sim. It's just an artificial object inserted by the sim, controlled by obviously other people.
Radar services terminated. Frequency change advisory is approved. Have a good flight.
It would be nice to see that kind of, you know, when people pull up to the jet bridge. You know, there could be that kind of talk between the sim where, okay, the jet bridge now comes on, because especially when you're flying with your buddies, your jet bridge comes up, but you look around the airport where your buddies pull up next to you, the airplanes on either side of you, their jet bridges don't move at all because, of course, they're just artificial objects. They're not actually aircraft operated by the sim.
So 1423 Jack Center, radar contact over the Remis intersection. Just confirm you're maintaining flight level 360.
JetBlue 1423, affirmative, maintaining flight level 360. I think we had 38 on file, but we had to change it for 36. Sorry.
1423, no problem. I fixed it for you.
Thank you so much. I forgot about that. We did have 38 on file. Didn't refile the flight plan after we changed it. Yeah. I'm not sure if they're going to learn anything. I doubt too many people from Asobo are probably going to watch the stream, to be honest. But yeah, on my wish list, that's kind of the biggest things. Would be some of those things. Some of the stuff that they're talking about, improving the scenery.
Canada 413, Jack Center.
I thought there was a really kind of a neat little irony in some of the stuff they talked about.
Just to the south of our current position, over the next 80 miles. Just want to confirm if that's going to be any.
And that was the one thing I thought that was really kind of funny, and it's almost a little bit circular, is how they were talking about how so much of the scenery now is going to be made up of procedurally generated 3D objects, like the vegetation, everything's going to be procedurally generated on your computer based on the biome that you're in. And I just think to myself, like, does this mean we're just going back to the whole land class system that we left behind in the P3D world in favor of the satellite stuff, and now we're kind of going back to that land class system? Well, you're in this biome, so we're going to artificially generate these plants randomly within your sim. And I just thought it was a little bit funny, like, you know, this leading edge of technology are we just going in a loop now? Well, now we're going to say this whole area is defined as this biome, and we're going to randomly procedurally generate some vegetation in that based on that biome. Maybe a larger number of land classes than we had before in the P3D era, but are we just back to the whole land class system again? I don't think that's really quite what we're doing, but I just thought there was a little bit of I just thought it was a little bit amusing that was kind of the world we were kind of moving into again. I wonder if I can do this. Ooh, there we go. Nice. But yeah, I wonder if that's the world where we're moving back into, where we're almost back into the land class system. After all this time of trying to get rid of it and get some realistic scenery. And it's impossible to realistically place every blade of grass and have a three-dimensional grass field based on satellite imagery alone. I didn't do that.
Can you repeat?
Head shoot man comes down to a better dev interface, which I think is not very accessible right now. It's hard to develop for MSFS, and I think that's.
They're offline, so actually looks like they're coming online. So
I think that's very possible, and I think that's been a perpetual problem too. Is that the SDK is really it's still not as expansive as people would like it to be. More things are locked down, and that's the technological era we live in. Companies are used to this is proprietary. We must lock everything down. No one else is allowed to modify our work. It's funny how we're kind of on both sides of the fence. You get like games that are so open to modding and create their interface in such a way that they're so easy to modify that everyone and their mother can release mods for these various games. But then on the other side of the fence, technology companies are so protective of their intellectual property because they know how much their intellectual property is worth. They love to steal it from other people, and then once they think they own it, then they guard it with their lives, and heaven forbid that you take their property, but they love to take everybody else's intellectual property without paying a thing for it. Because they know the value of it more than anybody.
I-54, how were the flight conditions for the previous 50 miles?
Yeah, so anyways, I think, yeah, like Asobo, a lot of things are locked down, things like the weather and things like that. Like, I would love to see some of that stuff open up. Like I said, I think one of the best mods that I'm really missing still, the weather's not bad, it's not great. it's really, I think, one of the best things that they could do to improve the weather system at this point. It's not so much about the look of it, but it's about the practical operation of it. Working weather radar that actually shows storm returns in real time based on,
about 115 miles
you know, maybe not like a one-for-one model. I got to turn this guy down. Maybe not a one-for-one model with what the real world's doing, but if there's storms in this area, paint some storms on the weather radar and have them show up on our aircraft weather radar so that we can and we have to look and we have to try and avoid them. I think that would be huge. That would probably be my number one suggestion to improve the realism of the sim. My number two suggestion would be we bring better camera controls, bring chase plane back, or not necessarily bring chase plane back, but find a way to allow Parallel 42 to bring chase plane back. Headshoot Man says, if that's the concern, do what Apple does. Let you develop the app, then steal the idea and integrate it into the OS. You know what? It's funny you say that, but Asobo has done that already. Asobo's taken a big page of that already because they haven't stolen so much as they see the really good ideas, they see the really good developers out there, and they don't steal the ideas, they steal the developers. Working title, Any builds, Gaia simulations. Like, you look at all these people that are developing products for them now, for the simulator directly. Like Gaia's building so many of the airports, the new bespoke airports for all the world updates. Any builds is built the A310. They're building an A320, an A330. All that stuff it's phenomenal how much stuff. Working title's been vastly improving the avionics in all the default aircraft over time. I have to say that actually that's probably one of the best and smartest business moves that Asobo has made, is rather than try to do everything themselves, they've looked around and said, well, who's doing a really good job? These guys are doing a fantastic job. Let's bring them on board as partners. Let's pay them money to develop their product and integrate it directly into the sim. Yeah, and Headshoot Man says, it's okay, but let me develop easily. Yes, I 100% agree. I don't say take the development away from anybody else. I agree. I think the SDK needs to be more open. I think developers need to be able to change whatever they want in the sim. But I do have to say, I think I admire Asobo for just being ready to admit that they are definitely not the end of the platform, that they are just the beginning of the platform, and that all these developers that they're partnering with are doing better things than they could have ever imagined. And it's funny because I was watching the live stream and they said, it's amazing what's become of this team. When Asobo started with this project, they were a team of 50 people working on this simulator, bringing this simulator to fruition, and they did a very good job of it. Now, in the Microsoft 2024 era, he said the team has grown to almost 800 people worldwide. 800 people are working on this in various capacities through partners, through different studios, and through expanded teams to continue development of FS 2020 to bring 2024 up into the forefront. Like, it's phenomenal, the amount of work. And he said we could never have done all this work on our own if we didn't have the support of the community, if we didn't have the partners that came on board with us to help get some of this stuff done. And when he talks about the number of people that are involved with this development in this sim, it really starts to blow your mind about how big the sim has gotten. So I would ask, here's an interesting question, and I'd ask anybody who's watching, do you feel like you've gotten good value out of...
Reset transponder squawk 1454.
Do you think you've gotten good value out of MSFS 2020 so far? And I don't think they've announced a price point on 2024, have they? I imagine they're probably going to have multiple editions again, and it's probably going to cost us all a bloody gosh darn fortune.
United 2060, contact Miami Center 135.17.
Going over to Miami Center. Thank you so much for your help.
See, and right now I think it's all speculation. People are speculating, but there's no real announcement about
65. Your radar contact 15 miles
about the price and yeah.
Maintain flight level 330.
Maintain level 330. 658.
American 571, Jack Center, reset transponder, squawk 2743.
It's funny because the only thing I'm reading here now is that everyone's like, well, is it worth moving into the new sim? It's like, well, yeah, but PMDG is going to charge you another $75 to bring your airplanes into 2024, which I know they're not actually going to do, but I just find it funny that that's the attitude people have. Yeah, I tend to think it was. No, actually, I will say hands down, without a doubt, MSFS 2020 was worth the purchase price for me, and I have gotten more than my fair share of value out of it. Let's see here. Let me bring up my Steam on the other window, and it's not always the most...
American 9260 370.
Stupid Steam. It's not always the most accurate because, like, sometimes I will leave the sim running when I'm not actually using it. I'll land and I'll leave the sim running for a couple of hours. I'll come back and I'll fly the airplane again. So it's not necessarily a realistic guide, but just to look at. Really, updating Steam now. I'm trying to just look at the numbers, and now instead it's running a Steam update. Honest to God, Steam, what are you doing? You're killing me here. Because I want to bring up the number. Come on, I want the number. Show me how many hours I've run this sim for.
American 1271, Jacksonville Center, reset transponder.
Because the number floors you, and then at that point, I don't think you'll find a better value for your entertainment dollar for the people who fly it as much as some of us do. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, 4,923 hours. 4,923 hours, and I'm pretty sure I had the Life Edition, which cost $160 at the time. So
1082, Jacksonville Center, radar contact as reported.
Let's see here, $160, I think, something like that, divided by 4,923 hours. It has basically cost me 3 cents per hour of enjoyment of FS 2020. 3 cents per hour I've flown this sim. 100% I've got my money's worth. Now, that being said, the money only just started with the sim itself. Of course, there's all the add-ons, the airports and the aircraft, and when you start to add that up, it's a couple of dollars an hour probably that it cost me to fly this sim. But nevertheless, it's been fun. If I never went to 2024, I'd be pretty happy with this sim the way it runs.
Radar contact 20 miles south of the Florida intersection. Climb and maintain flight level. Actually, maintain flight level 370.
Yes, and that's an interesting point you make too, Head Shoot Man. It can be cheaper than that.
571 heavy.
And I think it's surprising how it is not subscription based yet because of data streaming, which is costly. Updates are costly too. Yeah, the fact that there's a staff constantly working on this platform, constantly developing it. Yeah.
9260 radar contact.
I have to agree, and I wonder, like, how sustainable that is. And so 2024 might be your chance to re-support the studio again as, okay, you know, you've gotten lots of updates. And basically the idea was in 48 months that the sim has been out, there have been 48 updates. There's been sim updates, there's been world updates, there's been city updates, there's been famous flyers, all sorts of other stuff. Like, you think about all the extra aircraft that have been added to the sim, all the extra airports, all the world. Like, it's amazing how much stuff has been added to the sim over the last 4 years. Does it still have issues? Absolutely, it still has a few issues here and there. It's not perfect, but certainly in terms of value for the dollar too, I don't think you're right. You won't find a better value. The amount of data is insane, and that was one of the points that developers made too, is that they've been so fortunate that they were able to leverage Microsoft's cloud infrastructure to be able to distribute that data. I looked at it the other day, and in the last 30 days, my sim alone has streamed 1 terabyte of data from Microsoft simulators.
Still 1634 is very busy. I will get to it. Please stand by.
Yeah. So I'm almost surprised you're right that it hasn't sometimes switched to a subscription model, and I think it's the marketplace probably that is supporting them. And in the past, I've been very anti-marketplaces inside games. I always feel like it's a cash grab, and developers just trying to make a couple of extra bucks out of you. Which is the case because, of course, they need to support the infrastructure as well. So I'm probably still not going to use the store because of the way that the store is structured and the fact that everything that kind of gets downloaded is encrypted and you can't really see anything outside of the anything from outside the store. Some of the apps don't work properly with it if it's encrypted by the store. So there's other issues I have with it, but yeah, when you put it that way and frame it that way, is it worth paying money for 2024 just to make sure that the development continues? And if you don't, if you opt not to, they've said for at least another 4 to 5 years, 2020 is still going to be supported. This is not the end of 2020 by any means. 2020 is still going to have regular updates for the next half a decade at least. I would pay a monthly fee if everything in the store was free, as long as I pay.
Yeah, 6 Bravo, stand by. Medcon.
I don't know. I mean, the trouble is, like, everybody wants a subscription for everything, and so many things are not worth it. And you're right, this might be one of those cases where what you're getting is worth it. But everybody wants a monthly subscription. Nobody wants to actually let you buy anything anymore. And I really, as a consumer, I have a very big problem with that. Some things you're getting good value for your money, and Microsoft and Asobo might be the exception to that rule. But there's other things that you're not getting value for the money. Microsoft Office is one of those ones that I use as an example of, like, OneDrive as a separate entity, if you're using that, is different. But Microsoft Office as a whole, I really have a problem with that as a subscription service because the software, because the problem is when you're paying a subscription, you no longer are incentivizing the company to develop a good product. The company's already taking your money regardless, just to use the existing product, whether they improve it or not, whether they make good improvements or not. The previous software versions where you would periodically pay a lump sum amount for a vastly improved piece of software, the onus was then on the company to prove that the software was worthwhile, that it's worth you paying the money for the upgrade. The last version of Microsoft Office I used was, 2003, 2007? And that's fine. I still use it on my computer because it does everything you need to do. There's nothing I've seen in the newer versions that makes them any better than those old versions. It's the same stuff, so why am I paying more money for you to just have the same thing?
Blue Streak 5537, climb and maintain flight level 310.
Yeah, but if you hate it too, then why put up with it? Why let the companies? If you hate the idea of everything as a subscription, why let the companies get away with it? Like the extreme example to me was BMW making you pay for heated seats in your car with a subscription. I own the goddamn car. It's my goddamn car. Why the hell do I have to pay money every month to turn on a switch in my own car that I already paid for? I already paid you $40,000. I don't even know what a BMW costs anymore. I already paid you $70,000 for this car, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. I already paid for it. It's in my driveway. It's my possession. Why do I have to pay you a subscription to continue to use my possession? Like, that just blows me away. I hate paying for Navigraph, for example, when I don't fly for weeks. Well, yeah, and there's some things like that, but I will say, like, I think Navigraph does provide a very good value and a very good justification for a subscription fee. Yeah, if you don't use it for a few weeks, of course, yeah, then you feel like a little bit of your money went down the drain. But I think that they certainly provide a very good service, and for the right price, I think that Flight Simulator could be very worthwhile as long as it keeps the streaming services running on the back end. And it's something that I certainly would be willing to entertain, and I understand that cost benefit, and I understand the need to run back end service, and that was a concern of mine right from the beginning of 2020.
United 1345 descend via the Grinch 5 arrival.
Yeah, I understand why. Like 2020, that was a concern of mine. It's like, who's going to pay to run the back end service for the long term? Because this sim becomes dead without the back end servers running. So there needs to be obviously a plan for that. Sometimes you question certainly the value you get, and some software it doesn't need to be like that. And a lot of these softwares, like you look at some of the stuff that Adobe charges, they charge every year now for the same product. It's like they may do a couple tweaks, but again, the onus is on you to prove to me that the new version's good enough that it's worth paying for. Not I'm going to automatically pay you $500 a year for this software just to use it. You know, even if I don't use any of the new tools you developed, if you don't develop any good new tools, you still want $500 from me just to continue using it.
320, radar service is terminated. Frequency change to advisory is approved.
I'm sorry, was that for JetBlue 1423?
JetPort 1423, descend and maintain flight level 320, radar service is terminated, frequency change to advisory is approved.
All right, descend flight level 320 and check your leaving your airspace. Thank you very much for the service, JetBlue 1423. G'day. All right, kind of missed that one, but there we go. Okay, 320 is set. Roger, 320. We're just going to do this as a VS. So there's VS minus 1500.
United aircraft descending to through 340.
I'm going to turn him off because as much as it was nice to have some VATSIM ATC, boy, was it tough to try and talk over him. All right, I also see that our top of descent point is coming up there in about 100 miles, and I have not done anything to get ready for this because I said it was going to be a short flight. It is a short flight. Compared to most of the other flights I've done in this season, this is probably one of the shorter flights. So let's get set up for this arrival here. Let's start with, where's my... I've got so many browser windows open, I've forgotten which browser tab is which here. Let's stop doing this here. Let's get rid of this. You guys don't want to see my email. Nope, don't want to see that either. There we go. Okay, so let's get some data for KMSY. And let's also, let's just have a quick look at VATSIM and just make sure there is no Houston Center, there's no tower or anything in New Orleans, but no, nothing's going on in New Orleans right now. So I don't even see any weather, really. I've been kind of looking out the window a lot. It's a beautiful evening. Look at that sun setting over the horizon. What a beautiful screenshot for the end of the season here, huh? If I just zoom out a little bit so you can kind of just... Mostly so I can get like a nice screenshot here for the title card, maybe. Something like that. That's a really nice sunset there. Or I could even do it this way here. It's going to be noisy for a second, everybody, but let's just do it this way. Ooh, look at that. How nice is that? I think we might have a title card here somewhere. One of these is going to be my title card, I think, for this this episode. Just sail off into the sunset. Nice. I see a little bit of convective activity off the distance there, but nothing too bad. Okay, let's get back at it here because this is going to come up pretty quick here, and I don't want to be caught flat-footed with this descent. So, New Orleans weather information kilo midnight 53 Zulu. So that is pretty recent. 210 at 6, 10 miles, 2 at 3,000, scattered 5,000, scattered 7,000, broken 70,000, broken gas 25,000, 30 degrees, 26 degrees, 3007. Let's just set that right now before I forget. 3007, beautiful. I love the fact that when you do this, if you're already engaged in alt mode, it will not move to chase the altitude. All right, there's 32.6 descending 32, and let's see here. Arrivals expect GPS runway 11 approach, except aircraft inbound from the north through southeast. Expect GPS runway 20. That's probably us. Departing runway 20. So we can expect GPS runway 20. Notice to air missions. Taxiway Whiskey is closed. Runway 11. Surface lighting out of service. Cat 2 and 3. ILS not available. ILS 11 out of service. So we're going to plan the GPS 20. Sierra south of Echo. Arrival to runway 20. Expect to exit a taxiway Echo or back taxi. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at that, just to make sure I understand that NOTAM there. Sierra close south of Echo, so we're going to have to backtrack to Echo to get to the apron. Okay, perfect. Okay, so that's fine. Let's plan on that then. Let's plan the... Oops, that's not the right airport. That's the right airport. Let's plan the RNAV to 20, and we're going to do it as the RNAV Yankee to 20 as an LNAV VNAV approach here. All right, and yeah, enter destination data. That's what we're going to do. All right, so let's do arrival. We're going to do the GPS to 20 because the winds are out of the southwest anyways. So the approach is the RNAV. We're doing the RNAV Yankee to 20. RNAV Yankee 20. And we're going to do that via Snaky if that's a available transition. No star. Yeah, no star. And approach via Snaky. Yep, that's good. Okay, so Snaky. I think I've done this RNAV to 20 before here. Alright, so after HRV we have a discon, then we have... Alright, and I've got my flight plan up here on the other... Or my chart up here on the other thing here. So Snaky above 4,000, Rayop above 4,000, Jaspo above 2,000, Jaspo at 2,000. So let's pull this up here. No, let's not do that. Let's do constraints. Let's go plan, and let's just have a look here. So Snaky above 4,000, Ray up above 4,000, Jaspo above 2,000. Looks like we've got a 3-degree vertical path coded from Jaspo inbound to 20, and then for the missed approach, we've got 2,000 direct Poli, and on track 109 to safes and hold. So straight ahead to Poli and then safes to hold. That all looks good. Above 2,000. That's great. RadNav, we don't need anything. So it's GPS approach. Let's check the predicted GPS. We've got RAME across the board. The other thing I'm going to do is just put KMSY on here for the distance reference. We have 112 miles to go. We got to get this set up quickly here. For the descent, it's already in descent phase now. We're level at 320, but it's in descent phase. That's fine. 253. It's a very slow speed, but that's fine. Go back to my ATIS again here. And say 3007, 30 degrees, 210 at 6. So 210 at 6, 30 degrees, and 3007. And the baro minimums for this RNAV approach, we're doing it as an LNAV, VNAV, MDA, so we can use the actual MDA value, or the actual DA value, and it's 325. So 325, the missed approach is up to 2,000, so we're going to put 2,000 in the box here. 2,000 there. And 2,000 here. Alright, fuel prediction. Again, we're showing 6.8, which is pretty realistic against what we've got. We're showing 6.4 estimated fuel on board over the destination, which is good. And that leaves us with 3.1 of extra. 56.7, let's call it 62, 63 and a half, we'll say, for the landing numbers here. So let's just do this. Landing, we'll use wet again. 20, apply METAR, 63.5. If we do low auto brake, that takes us past the end, so we're going to do medium auto brake, and that gives us, on 7,000 feet, that gives us a 6,000 foot factor distance. We'll use max for first, flap full, auto thrust on for the landing. Okay, so we're definitely going to do auto brake medium on this. All right, secondary, copy the active. What we can do is we can plan an arrival, an RNAV onto 11. RNAV Yankee 11, just in case ATC comes online and tries to switch us to that one. We're set up for it. So RNAV Yankee 11. We could do it via Tibby, would probably be the most sensible one here. Come on, press the button, press the button. Tibby's apparently not a transition. What do you mean Tibby's not a transition? Tibby VOR. Oh, Tibby VOR. So that must be T. It's not RQR, so it must be the TBD. All right, TBD, figure, custy, mecta. Figure, custy, mecta, wecta. Let's see here, 2,000, and then, yeah, wecta 500, that's fine. Straight in, and then out it's Zubel to safes. And then we can do secondary perf. Everything stays the same except for the minimums. The weather data is the same. Minimums are now on this. LNAV, VNAV, 254 on this one, so even lower. Like it. 254, also 2,000 for the missed approach. All right. Let's just see how we are compared to our top of descent point here. And we probably should just start down now. All right, so let's just do 10,000 initially here. 10,000 feet set. 100,000 speed, descent all blue. Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Go ahead.
All right, technical status of the airplane. The fuel quantity message, again, we are right on the target for our fuel, so everything seems to be happening according to the plan, so I believe the plan is a good plan. And yeah, there's no other further action items on our MEL. So the, let's see here. So the star, there is no star, we're just descending. We should probably actually just do an open descent at this point, so get down a little faster here. We're going to transition to... Oh, I didn't even flag any of these approaches here. RNAV Yankee 20, RNAV Yankee 11, with RNAV Yankee 20 being our primary. So the approach is the RNAV Yankee runway 20 in New Orleans, Armstrong, New Orleans International, 12-3, WAS, no frequencies required. Final approach course 197, the glide path check height at JASPO 2000, LNAV, VNAV DA is 325, and that should be, looks like that is set right there in the corner. The missed approach is as published, as otherwise advised by ATC. The top altitude on that 2,000. The MSA, all sectors around runway 20 is 3,100 feet. No special notes. A few airways, but we're not on an airway, so those notes don't apply to us. 3-degree glide path, and Pappy's on the left. MLS. Going to stream. Thank you for the stream. Talk to you later. Thank you, Headshoot Man. Thank you so much for the discussion. Appreciate it. I think we all kind of see eye to eye, but it's nice to have those chats. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you next time. You can watch the landing on YouTube in a couple days when I put it out there. But in the meantime, enjoy. Have a good night. We'll catch you next time for sure. LNAV VNAV 325, 4,000 RVR, 3/4 mile. Just trying to finish this briefing up really quickly here. Once we land on runway 20 in New Orleans, it's Echo is, or Sierra's close south of Echo. So if we pass Echo, we've got to backtrack the runway to get off at Echo, and then we can take Sierra into the apron Gulf. Charlie 1 is right here in the corner here. That's our planned gate for this evening. Hotspot number 2, green painted overrun for runway 1129 can be interpreted for taxiway Echo, so don't turn on to the green overrun pavement. That's the big hotspot there. It's going to be a managed approach to a manual landing. It's a final app approach we're planning. So once we're cleared for the approach and we're inbound to the final descent point, which will be... we have to be inbound to the final approach point, which is JASPO. So once we're inbound to JASPO, we can arm approach mode. And we have to be in descent to 2,000 feet for that. Arm approach mode. And don't need the second up pilot. Anti-ice should be off for the arrival. We've got auto brake medium. We'll plan a maximum reverse until we start decelerating and config full for landing. It's not going to be a huge runway. It's got a little bit of extra room, so we will definitely land in the optimum touchdown zone. If we miss the end of the touchdown markings, we will conduct a go-around, come back, and try it again. No ATCs online. That does remind me, though, that I do have to have a CTAF frequency up for KMSY. I could look on the chart, but it's 19.5. So let's just get 19.5 up there, ready to go. Beyond that, RadNav is nothing to tune. Auto-tune is fine because we're just using the GPS for the approach. And fuel prediction, again, we're looking at over an hour of extra fuel. We gave ourselves lots of fuel because of the weather that is kind of supposed to be all north of us. There is some stuff out there, but it's not nearly as bad as it originally looked. And I think, let me think. I think that's more or less it. For the briefing, just threats. Again, uncontrolled airport. There's a departure at least on the ground. We're the only ones inbound, so we're just got to keep an eye out for that departure, make sure we're not in conflict with them. We'll make the appropriate calls on the CTAF frequency. Convective weather mostly seems to be off to the north. It doesn't look like it's really impacting our route of flight today, so that looks good. Yeah, I can't think of too much else. Have I missed anything? I might just get the dome light on here just to sort of give us a little bit of ambient lighting in here as we keep our descent going here, and maybe I won't have to back up the time at all. I can't think of too much else in all honesty. I'm trying to think. It doesn't look like it's rained. We do have wet runway numbers in there, so if it's dry, we're going to get even better performance than expected. We will have to do the backtrack and make the appropriate radio calls. I can't think of too much else. Any questions?
No questions.
All right, let's just have a quick look at the status page. Status looks good. We do have the medium auto brake selected. And we would notify the cabin. We should have probably actually notified them already. Flight attendants, 20 minutes to landing. All right. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm just going to give us direct to Snaky because I don't have any ATC online. That's the way we're going to transition in there. We can continue on this route, but at this point, we're good down to probably 3,000, definitely 4,000 for Snaky. So let's just go direct Snaky now. Let's go down to 4,000, which is the Snaky crossing height. There's 4,000 feet set. Let's see how this descent is going to look then. I think we're behind the 8 ball in the descent big time here. And yeah, there's a VNAV profile now. And let's just have a look-see here at the prog page, which says, actually, no, we're not actually that far behind the 8 ball here. We're 1,300 feet higher than we need to be. That's actually not bad. That's very, very reasonable. I think we could definitely recover from that with just a little bit of speed brake application. Good stuff, good stuff. I was worried we'd be a little bit high because there was a discon and everything, and it wasn't a continuous descent to the runway, but it actually looks like we're doing pretty well here. How you doing, Dan? Doing good? Excellent. I have control. I have control.
You have control.
Thanks, Dan. You're the best.
Check speed.
All right. About 40 miles from New Orleans. About another 10 miles closer, we'll start making CTAF calls. I'm so impressed we got this done. We did get some ATC at least. We're not getting ATC for the arrival. We got some ATC at least. Oh, there's the pass. We can probably stow the speed brakes there. Just follow the path down now. And yeah, sorry, let's just go manage descent. Speed, descent, all blue. There we go. Manage that descent a little better. Read the FMA. It'll help you a lot if you just read the FMA. Okay, not too bad. Descending through 190. What are we going to cross Snaky at? We're going to cross Snaky at like almost 9,000 feet. Yeah, okay, that's fine. We got a long way to descend past Snaky, so it's all good. Alright, I think we'll be okay. It's going to be a bit dark when we get there, but it's not going to be totally unreasonable. You're not going to be looking at a dark screen for the arrival, so I think it's going to actually look nice. I do have to say I like this paint job they had too on this one here. This is a really nice... a really nice paint job, and again, it's all thanks to JViation. I really should send him a message because he has been he's been the one that's painted all these airplanes that we've flown for JetBlue, and what a fantastic set of liveries he's had. It's just, they're so diverse, they're so much fun. It's one of the reasons why I like JetBlue's fleet, is they're such a diverse and fun looking fleet. So I'm kind of enjoying flying for them, and I'm looking forward to at least one more season because I want to fly that 321 with you guys. All right, there's transition.
Three, 0, 0, 7, set, passing, 17,100. Now. Perfect.
It's funny. I pressed, I wanted to go and reset the altimeter on the EFIS panel there, and I actually pressed my mini FCU. I'm so used to actually pushing that little knob there that I actually went and pushed it with a pushed the speed knob, because it's the first one on my mini FCU, thinking it was this knob here. Didn't even realize I was doing it. Alright, you can kind of see New Orleans coming into view there. And actually, one thing I'm just going to do really quickly here, because I realized that this track IR sensor was pointed at the wrong spot there. And so I kept on looking at the window here, and it was disappearing on me. There goes New Orleans. Alright, we're going to come up on the Unicom here. New Orleans traffic, good evening. JetBlue 1423, 30 miles to the east. We're on a left downwind to left base for the RNAV runway 20, New Orleans. 19.5. Let's see here. I see company message here, and I never acknowledged it this whole time we're in flight, so maybe we should actually acknowledge this here. JetBlue Ops, 2 minutes delay. See the ADC card for the 2 minutes delay, so let's go and have a look at this here. If I touch that, delay allocation card. OFL, let's call it OFL. So let's go. AOC delay. KFLL 2 minutes. Complex fuel MEL. There, send that. Take that, JetBlue. Take that, JetBlue Ops. All right, there's definitely a little bit of convective activity out there, but nothing that looks crazy. I'm just curious how the weather radar actually panned out here, and this is one thing that I feel like the sim kind of does just not justice to yet. Is the weather weather radar. See, there's a cell like right to the west of us. Like there should be like a cell right there, and there should definitely be like some bigger, higher stuff off here, but it's not coming up as very much convective activity. And I'm not saying it has to be like spot for spot, like idealized, but like if there's intense convective activity, it should show up as thunderstorms, or at least certainly taller clouds with maybe lightning in the distance. Certainly as night falls, lightning becomes very obvious in the distant clouds. Like we should be seeing some lightning strikes around here everywhere, and yet we're not. So I feel like that's one place where the sim also falls down, is their real-time capture of severe weather, thunderstorms, convective type activity is not there. It really, that could also use some help.
New Orleans traffic, Southwest 4876, taking off runway 20.
Do they have lightning in here? They don't have lightning. They don't actually have lightning strikes. Isn't that interesting? If all the weather layers not to have, I'm surprised they don't have lightning strikes. Oh well. Alright, anywho, let's focus what we're doing here, because here comes Snaky, here comes 10,000. We are 250 knots, give or take. Too dark? Maybe.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be arriving at our destination shortly. If you are making a connection to another flight, please see the customer service agent meeting this flight or video monitors inside the terminal for connecting gate information. For your continued safety, flight attendants will now walk through the cabin to secure it for landing. We'll be collecting all service items, newspapers, and any other items you wish to discard or may not be taken.
Approach checklist.
Also in preparation for landing, please turn off all electronic
3007 set.
3007 set. Seatbelts.
On.
Minimum.
Please stow your tray tables and return your
325 feet barrel.
and check the security of your seatbelts. We will be landing.
325 feet set.
Auto brake.
Medium. Medium armed.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
Approach checklist completed.
Roger. Alright, there's the New Orleans Lakefront Airport. That's the Air Force Base, I believe, over there. And somewhere over here is our destination. I think I see the lights flashing now. I don't even see the traffic that departed. Hopefully he's gone by now. If not, well. This was well timed, actually. This is going to be just good enough that, yeah, you'll see something here. If I'd left much later, it would have been too dark for this. I would have had to backdate it by an hour. And it's good to know that I can do that. I can just backdate a single hour. If I wanted to, I could just do this, and it's like, oh my god, bright sunshine, ah! Too much, too much. All right, back to real. All right. I didn't even have a chance to fail anything. That was the other part, too. I was thinking about failing something. And the conversation was just getting so interesting. And I didn't feel the need to fail anything.
New Orleans traffic, Southwest 4876, clear runway, going to Unicom.
New Orleans traffic, JetBlue 1423 is about to turn a 10-mile final, runway 20, New Orleans. And is that like the island in the middle of the causeway? Shouldn't that be like lights from one end to the other? Anywho, there's 4,000. We're in managed mode, or when we're in managed descent, so I'm going to go ahead and set the 2,000 foot height for JASPO, because we're in managed, so it'll definitely stay above 4,000 feet for RAOP here. And, oh, we need to lose some energy here. Somehow we're doing 270 knots now. I don't even know when we started doing that. It's trying really aggressively to stay on path here. Alright, we're now inbound to JASPO, so we can arm approach mode. And there's final lap speed. And missed approach altitude of 2,000 feet is set. We might get docks of points there for exceeding the speed limit because, wow, I didn't realize we'd pushed our speed up to 270 while I was looking out the window there. We gotta slow this puppy down or we're never gonna land. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1. Radar altimeter alive.
Gear down.
Gear down.
That'll give us some drag.
Cabin crew be seated for landing.
JASPO 2,000, missed approach altitude, 2,000 feet set. Flaps 2.
Speed checked. Flaps 2.
Flaps 3.
Speed checked. Flaps 3.
Flaps full.
Speed checked. Flaps full.
New Orleans traffic, JetBlue 1423, 3 miles final, runway 20.
1,000.
Landing check. Landing
Checked.
checklist. Landing checklist.
Cam memo.
Landing no blue.
Landing checklist completed.
Alright, as long as you could dump the flaps, you can get the airplane to slow down, but sometimes just getting below the flap speed is the challenge. In that case, we needed the gear. That was what was really the key to that one. Alright, she's having a little trouble tracking this here. Winds are pretty light, but they are kind of variable a little bit. I never set the gate while we were on approach. Too busy chattering away. Stable.
100 above.
Roger.
Minimum.
Continue.
Checked.
$100. 50, 40, 30, 10, 5.
Spoilers. Reverse green. Decel. $70 knots.
Manual brakes. New Orleans traffic, JetBlue 1423 vacating runway 20, will be crossing runway 1129er, taxiing to the apron. Clear on the left.
Gentlemen, this is the conclusion of our flight.
After landing checklist.
With your seatbelts fastened until the captain has turned off
Radar and predictive wind shear system.
is parked safely at the gate. This will be your indication
Off and off.
about the cabin. Gather your belongings and disembark.
After landing checklist completed.
We'd like to thank you for flying with us today. We appreciate your business and hope to see you again on a future flight.
All right, welcome to New Orleans. Just got a taxi into Charlie 1, which is going to be the last gate on the right once we get into the horseshoe between the two arms of this terminal. And that'll be it for Season 12 off A Pilot's Life. I can't believe it's been 12 seasons. It's been fantastic. It's been a lot of work. We logged a lot of hours, but also tons of fun. And another beautiful scenery. This one is courtesy of Latin VFR. This is Latin VFR's New Orleans KMSY. It's a pretty good scenery overall. It looks like it leaves a little tiny bit to be desired on the night version. I don't know. Looking through the windows, there's almost too much brightness inside. I don't know. It doesn't quite look right. They are transparent windows, so you're seeing inside. Doesn't quite look as good at night during the day, but nevertheless, it's good scenery, and it like overall, like I hate to disparage developers too much or discourage them because it's a lot of work to do this stuff. I realize it 100%. I haven't developed any airports, but I've kind of looked into it a little bit, and I realize what effort does go into making some of these really fantastic, well done models. And trying to capture night sometimes can be really tough. It's such a fine line between too dark that you can't see any details, it doesn't look like anything's happening, and too bright where it looks toy-like. It's a very fine line you walk here. Alright, so it should be the last gate here on the right. We should have marshalers now that I set everything up. So as we approach the gate, we're going to go ahead and go taxi light off. Dome light is coming on. We got the radar is off. The accumulator's good. The anti-ice is off. The AP bleed's coming on. And the lights are all off. Last gate on the right. can still kind of see the yellow line. I should have a marshal over there somewhere. I think I see them standing there. Sometimes it's hard to get that sense of motion without peripheral vision. Does he have red wands? Because it doesn't even look like he's doing anything yet. Oh, yeah, he does. He has wands. I see them now. Thank you. Parking checklist.
Parking brake or chocks.
Set.
Engines.
Off.
Wing lights.
Off.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Parking checklist completed.
All right. Just turned him on mute, and we are here. We made it to New Orleans. You can see, yeah, you can see a little bit of detail inside the terminal there. It's just something about it. It's too kind of pale and uniform lighting. Wow, how tired am I? I got up very early this morning. I had a little nap, but apparently I'm not. It was not enough to get me through the day. Yeah. It doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look great either. It definitely something to be desired with it, and it's hard to sometimes sell the night lighting. It really is, and it's funny. Like there's actually lights on the side of the building, and the light sources don't seem to be coming from the light. You don't realize that till you get up close. These look like lights here, but then the light sources are actually coming from somewhere else. Like it really doesn't look all that good when you kind of get up close to it. It's a little bit of a shame because most of the time Latin BFR does some very good work, so it's a little bit disappointing when they don't do when you see some shortcomings in their work. But not everything can be perfect all the time, and when you start to think of the scope and the scale of all the stuff that goes into this sim, it's just phenomenal how much stuff is in there. All right. That is it for Season 12. We have arrived. We have no more schedule left. We are done flying for JetBlue for this season. We have $2,250 in the bank account. We got 4,390 points there, and I'm just curious because I feel like this flight was not the best flight I ever did. A little bit of a speed limitation exceedance there. Yeah, so I lost a few points here. Pitch up on departure probably captured that as well. So max pitch angle, 20 degrees. Actually, that's basically where all my points left was just from that. The landing rate, it gave me a good minus 282. I was happy with that. It was just the pitch angle of 21, 22 degrees on departure, which is not unusual sometimes on the initial departure. Maybe that was a little bit excessive on my part, so I did justify losing a few points there. So I've had a pretty good streak so far. It's a little bit of a shame to let that fade away on the last episode of the season, but so be it. It's not every day is perfect when you fly. You do the best you can. You go into every day hoping to do the best you can. Not every day is going to be perfect. But there we go. So at this point now, we're up to generating a new schedule. If I go back to the dashboard really quickly, I think I had some messages, and I'm pretty sure they were all just cash coming at me here. Salary income credited, $96. Salary income credited, $105. And a friend request received from Ethan Poirier. So let's quickly go in and do that, and then let's just have a quick look at play with the schedule a little tiny bit here. Ethan Poirier, friend request, one new. Ethan, you can now be my friend on A Pilot's Life. All right. Still, you see the well, even the top guys on here don't have all that much money. $411,000. I mean, that's a lot more money than I have, than the $2,200 I have. But it's funny because one of the achievements, I was looking at this the other day. One of the achievements on here is whale, and you have to have $1 million cash. Nobody has $1 million. I wonder if any of these people have ever achieved $1 million and gotten it. But X-Pilot MX, and it's funny now, like the leaderboard stats are changing on this. It used to be the same couple of guys that were always in the top here. Mark Menendez was one that was always in the top, and I guess maybe he's kind of fallen by the wayside for a little while. He's not spending as much time in here as he used to, because now we've got different people up here. We've got Senior Captain L12, who's got 368,000 experience points and $346,000. I wonder how many flights this guy has done. It's probably been a lot. Leaderboards for events. Complete events, 206 people have participated. There's been a lot of events, and I noticed that actually today. I don't know if it's still in evidence, but I was looking at this earlier. It's not very much in evidence anymore, but earlier today there were 2 events, in fact, happening at the same time on this network. One from I think it was Cancun up to like Houston, and another from Payne Field down to Bradley, and both of them had a lot of people flying it through Pilot's Life. So a lot of people were using up their tickets or whatever, and their flight passes and going on those. So those events seem to be actually very well received. I don't know if there's 14,000 people flying them, but there's definitely a lot of people flying them. But yeah, anyways, I think we're going to continue with another season of JetBlue. We're not going to do long haul flying. We might do medium. We'll definitely do short haul round trips from hubs, or random continued trips is what I like. And starting airport on KO. Let's see if we can actually, that's new. I don't think we were ever able to start that before. Oh, look at this. This is new as well. We can actually choose which aircraft we want to see. So I kind of want to see all of them. Which aircraft we want to generate. So they looks like they've added a few new options in here, which is actually kind of nice. So we could do the next season. So we could start the next season here in New Orleans again, and go Boston, Orlando, Santo Domingo, JFK, Bozeman, JFK to Bozeman, back to Boston, PBI, White Plains, Charleston. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff there. Let's see what else we've got here. New Orleans, back to Fort Lauderdale, Bogota, go down to Bogota, back to Fort Lauderdale, Mobay, San Fran, a lot of in and out of Fort Lauderdale. There's some interesting stuff here. There's a lot of long haul, though. These 2,200-mile flights, I won't say they scare me, per se. Scare is not the right word, but not something that I really want to spend a lot of time doing. Remove the CRJ. Does that really change the spirit of it? Not very much. It's the same kind of thing from New Orleans. Boston seems to be where we're going to go, and then it seems like we're going to see a few repeats of places we've been before, but hopefully we can combine them in new and different ways that kind of makes them interesting. Schedule map. This is also a neat way to see it, too, of what this looks like. And I'm trying to get just not the out and back all the time. I like to kind of do like at least a few triangles here and there. Something that's not quite always out and back. Fort Myers. I could go to Fort Myers. I'd like to go there sometimes. Sure. Everyone can get off. Good night, everybody. Anyways, there's quite a few things we could do. I'm going to play with this for a little while. I think we're going to do one more season because I'm still keep my fingers crossed. I said that about this season, that I was hoping that the A321 would be out before the end of the season. It didn't happen. So I'm hoping that it's going to happen in the next season. I'm hoping. We'll see what happens. But yeah, what else we got here? New Orleans, Boston, San Juan. We've been to San Juan a bunch of times. St. Martin would be fun to go to. JFK, Bozeman, Denver. That's not so bad. 1,400 miles. It's getting long, but it's not terrible. Houston. I'll leave the CRJ in there just because I want to see like all the possibilities, really. MDST, Santiago in De Los Caballeros in the Dominican Republic. DCA again. I feel like it's gonna start to get a bit repetitive here because we got the same kind of hubs. We got maybe not the same exact routes, but we're gonna see a lot of the same airports again. So I'm gonna have to really kind of play with this and see if I can find a schedule that's gonna generate a bit of interest somewhere we haven't been before, and because I definitely want to go to a place that I haven't been before. I definitely want to see some new stuff. And if it really starts to get boring, maybe we'll really change it up and we'll go to the other side of the planet at some point here. And we'll fly the Airbus in Europe or something. Oh, there's 6 airlines have offered me a job now. Lot Polish Airlines would like me to come work for them for $54 an hour, which is basically what I'm getting right now. So at least it's equal pay. I don't know that much about Lot. I know it's a Polish airline. I don't know what type of airplane types they fly. They fly everything here. 195s, E175s, the Maxes, the 190s, Dreamliners, 37s, 330s. Yeah, that could be fun. That could be fun. And both a short haul and a long haul network. So if you wanted to, can I search? Wouldn't it be nice if you could search this table? Oh, you can. Oh, it was just taking its time to do it. Perfect. Quite a lot of short haul flying here in and around Poland. I don't have any airports in Poland, I don't think, but that could be interesting. That could definitely be interesting. Who else would like me to come work for them? Scandinavian, it's a bit of a pay cut. Lufthansa Cargo, I think we looked at Lufthansa Cargo before. We looked at Norwegian Air Shuttle before. Scandinavian Airlines. I think a mix of long and short haul again, so we could just restrict ourselves to short haul. I don't have the 777 type rating anyways. There's no point in flying for any of these carriers, but they do have 320s, 330s, ATRs, 350s, 319s, 321s, 37s, and 38s. It's a very diverse kind of fleet here. Wow, they actually cover a lot of routes here. How many routes do they have? 1,396 routes. That's a lot of routes to choose from with a number of different hubs in Scandinavia here. Looks like Stockholm, Copenhagen, and looks like Oslo as well. So definitely could be very interesting here doing Scandinavian. That covers a lot of Europe with short haul stuff. I could do a lot of European flying there. So it's something I'm going to have to think about. Maybe it's time to really just completely shift gears. It's been a long time of flying around North America. I like flying around North America. I like it a lot. I feel like sometimes it's going to get a little bit repetitive, though. Don't do long haul, do random continued trips. If I don't do it from New Orleans, I'm just curious to see what we get. Anyways, that's probably enough playing with this and looking at what we can do. We'll have to definitely circle around and see if there's some good stuff we can do. Puerto Vallarta. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in there. But yeah, I think that's it for me for tonight. I got up super early this morning. I'm starting to feel really tired. I feel myself fading pretty quickly out here. So, yeah, I think we'll just hop out of the flight deck, have a little look-see, think about what it's going to be like to have walk-arounds be an option in the next version of the sim. My drone camera, I always feel it's just, like, too fast. And Travis, you told me last week what the key is to slow it down, and I can't remember still. So, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and call the night, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed Season 12. I hope you'll join me for Season 13 of A Pilot's Life. We're not going to do it for probably a few weeks yet. Summer's busy anyways, as it is. I think what we'll try and do is maybe we'll try and stick in some 777 flights just for the fun of it. We'll do a couple of 2 or 3 hour long 777 flights. Nothing too crazy long. Maybe I'll even go to Europe. Maybe I'll even fly Europe as a little trial right now and see what it looks like. Maybe take the British Airways 777 and just take it through Europe somewhere. Nothing too long. 2 or 3 hour flight. May not be totally realistic, but just to try it out. I don't want to do a long stream with the 777, but also just to try out some European flying. See what it's like. See if it's something that maybe I could do in the future. It'd be a lot harder for me to apply my real-world knowledge because I don't really have too much real-world knowledge of flying in Europe. But nevertheless, it could be a fun experience. It could be a real challenge. So something to think about. I haven't made up my mind. I really don't know. Stick to the Discord. I will definitely announce what's going to happen, hopefully a couple days in advance. And in the meantime, guys, I'll probably see you out there on the VATSIM skies controlling. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy that PMDG 777. And we will see you out there all on the friendly VATSIM skies. Have a great night, everybody.